Welcome to Let's Get It, the Atheist Roundtable.
That was terrible. Let's do that again.
How's the mic? What you doing? What up with Eddie? Why he sweaty on your noodle? I don't get it. He lost his shit. The whole kid caboodle. Now pause. You alls. Everybody tell him that he's a lost cause. Who's the ass in the hat? Half Christian ass. Always talking this and talking that. And Benji on the epistemology. You got claims, got beliefs. What's your confidence? And is it relevant? Nah. Just Jeff. What's next? What text you gonna put to the test? Put to the test, little troll face weasel on TikTok looking like a beetle juice. And what do you do when a member of your crew sits in a shed with the dead? I don't know what's up. Anybody seen TJump? Now the newest member of the crew. The TART debut. Here's your preview. It's K Nabs. She says she's the live stream queen. Welcome to the team. Yeah. Welcome to the team.
The Atheist Roundtable.
Is faith a reliable pathway to truth? Hey, yo, Oz, are we going on a deep dive?
Faith is bullshit. Jesus in the morning.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Atheist Roundtable. And the end of that intro, it's tough to do a serious intro after that mess.
Nah.
But I do know when we were in Georgia, TJump and I did have a dance-off, and I won. I definitely shook my ass better than he did. Now, some may say that that's a subjective opinion, but...
No, you objectively won. Absolutely.
Cool. Good to hear that.
Yeah.
What's up? It's Oz. Murdershed Steve's with me tonight. How are you, man?
I'm doing just fine. Haven't seen anything crazy in a little while, so that's always nice. It was good to finally meet everybody in person.
Yes.
Especially
yes.
TJump.
Yes. And what you heard on the song says, is there anybody seen TJump? Good news is we have seen him, and he's even with us tonight, so he's safe. He did not get left behind in the Murdershed, so we're off to a great start tonight. But before we bring everybody up,
You know who we didn't see a whole lot of, though? I didn't see Ben. There was no
Right.
Ben G around.
should we check the Murdershed?
No. Now, I heard that there's something going on the 20th.
Yes, there is. So tonight actually is the deadline, the cutoff for all new atheist YouTube content creators. If you just started in the last 3 to 6 months-ish, right around there, we want to help you, expose and get people talking and watching your channel and your content. So if that's you and you want to be a part, or you know somebody that should be a part of it, email me, austin@tart.live, and I'll add you to the lineup. Like I said, tonight's it, because I get, for the most part, have the schedule set, and the more people I have emailing me, I got to start moving stuff around. So it's done after tonight. So make sure you email me if you want to. If not, next time we do it, you can be part of that one. But we're cooking up a little something different tonight, Steve. We're going to have a round table discussion at the Atheist Roundtable, and that's redundant as shit, but that's what we're going to do. So I've been excited about this today, and then TJump's with us, and I love his position on that, and I know you agree with that as well. So I'm eager to talk about it, discuss it, and even be able to ask questions real time and get into that. And then we also have a very special guest with us tonight, a return guest. Ethan Lawless is with us, so we'll bring everybody on here. And then there's that one guy. He doesn't do a lot around here, but he's here. The do nothing, DoLittle.
Yeah.
One of those. But we'll bring him on. What's up?
Hey, what's up?
Yo!
Wow, the energy is live in here on a Friday night. Woo, let me tell you. Somebody needs to get the atheist energy drinks out.
Ooh, I already killed mine.
I think you need another one then. But no, we'll jump right into it. But we will introduce everybody real quick so everybody knows who is who. Well, you know Steve and I. So we'll go. Ethan, this is your I want to say second or third time back on the channel. Good to have you back. And how are you?
It's my second time. I'm doing pretty well, actually. You caught me on a good day. Yesterday was a little rough.
Got it. Yeah, and I know you told me you had a rough couple days there, so I'm glad you're feeling better today.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And then the DoLittles. What's up, man? How you feeling?
What's up, man? I'm good. Given everything that's happened today, I'm just happy I made it to the show, honestly, for real.
What's that saying? I'm just like the ugly kid at prom. I'm just glad to be here.
I'm just glad to be.
And then Tom Jump is with us tonight. How are you feeling, man?
Tired.
Okay. Well, we'll try to get through this with the quickness, so you can get your beauty sleep. Beauty rest. What was it? Beauty sleep, beauty rest. So obviously, as you saw in the thumbnail, those that are hanging out with us tonight, morality is going to be the topic of our discussion. So kind of the lead-in question to get the ball rolling here. Well, I'll start. DoLittle, I'll start with you. When you think of morality, do you believe it's objective, subjective? What's your position on that?
I mean, right now, I believe it's subjective. I want to say that it's objective because of everything I've heard Tom say about it, and I really trust a lot of things that he says. But right now, I haven't done enough research for myself. I still feel like it's subjective. Okay,
all right. Ethan, what's your position on it?
I don't understand most of the philosophical arguments in regards to morality, the subjectiveness, the objectiveness. My position is that it was a process of evolution. We learned to be better through knowledge. The more we learn, the better we get.
Okay, so do you think that then in defining it or deciding what is moral and not moral, is that to the individual or is that as a whole? So again, would it be subjective or objective?
I think in general it would apply to the whole, wouldn't it? I don't want to get shot, so why would anybody else?
Okay, so you would take an objective position?
Sure.
Murdershed.
I believe in an objective morality without the need of a god, and that we change our morality based on what we discover about morality.
Yes, and
we change our understanding. I'm sorry, we change our understanding of morality.
Yeah, and I'm a new convert to the secular objective morality in my study. And as much as we do enjoy listening to Tom and his takeaways and his positions on things, and you know, Tom would tell you the same thing. You take it, but then go do your cross references, do your own research, and dig into it and find, make sure that the information that you are consuming and making your decision on that that they're accurate. But based on what I've done, listening, reading, studying that I've done on it, yes, I've adopted that position as well. So, Tom, obviously, it is your position. You've been writing it and working on it. Tell us, for those that have never heard your position on that or watching your videos or anything, what is secular position, secular objective morality, and how do we get there without a god?
Yeah, so morality works the same way as any phenomenon. We see something like, oh, look, a star. There's some bright light in the sky. What is that? And then we try to say, well, is it just something in our imagination or is it really there? And we say, if it's really there, we should be able to discover something about it, make predictions of some kind, do something with it. And we have to treat morality the same way. So morality starts with the phenomenon. We see people harming other people and say, that feels bad. That feels wrong for some reason. So we have these feelings of wrongness that are there. And we want to know if those feelings are a real thing that correspond to something in reality, independent of our minds, or if it's just a product of our minds, just evolution, nothing else. And so we have to say, if it's a real thing, if it's really there, there should be some patterns to it. We should be like, we could like imagine it's like an ocean we see off in the distance. Maybe it's a mirage, maybe it's fake, not real, or maybe it's a real thing that's actually there that has properties independent of us looking at it. And if it does, then as we get closer, we will discover new things about it. It'll be able to change. It'll be have a more accurate viewpoint. Other people will be able to see it there also, even without us. So like, if there were other aliens that existed on other planets from evolution or just computers, they should be able to see it too. They should be able to interact with it too. And so the hypothesis is that if it's a real thing that exists independent of our minds, then pretty much any living thing with a high enough level of intelligence and resources is going to be able to discover what morality is and probably going to come to similar conclusions about what it is. And so that's the basic premise, is that we just have to treat morality like a phenomenon like any other. It's something there to be discovered, and we have to make testable predictions to discover it, just like anything else. And what it is a higher order emergent property like fitness. So we think that there is a fact of the matter that some animals are more fit than others. They will survive in more environments than others. And that's something true independent of our opinions, but it's a emergent feature. It's not like it's a particle. There's not a fitness particle out there that we can discover. It's a higher order emergent property of other interactions between other things. And morality is the same kind of a thing. It's like fitness describes interactions between an organism and its environment. Morality describes interactions between agents and an environment. So that's essentially what it is. It's a higher order emergent property, and the hypothetical is that it's a thing out there independent of humans, and that's all species, all living things with a high enough level of intelligence will all discover essentially the same understanding of morality, just like they'll discover the same understanding of physics or mathematics.
Okay, and then one of the I can't remember which video it was I was watching, but you were somebody had asked you about I guess, can somebody be verbally immoral? And you described that it's not like if you're dealing in a courtroom, that the judge gives an order that this person should go to jail or go to prison. It's not the verbalization from the judge. It would actually be the officer, the police officer, putting them in handcuffs and then taking them out of the courtroom and placing them in jail. That would be the immoral act, but it's still the best thing because it's saving other people or something along those lines.
Yeah, there's two things there. One is that words themselves aren't immoral. So like a commander giving the order to kill people isn't directly immoral. It's the killing itself that is the direct immorality. But because in our physically limited world, commands can lead to that, there's a pragmatic justification for understanding that to be subjectively immoral given our physics. So if I give a command, somebody's going to follow it hypothetically. Therefore, it's immoral given our subjective physics. But if we lived in like the best of all possible worlds where everyone had a personal force field, the words couldn't do any harm at all. So there wouldn't be anything immoral about them. It's only subjectively immoral because in this world it can lead to harm. The second thing you mentioned was the pragmatic justification. So like throwing someone in prison is immoral, but it will save the victims of that person who will potentially harm people in the future. And so it'll cause less imposition of will to put them in prison than to let them go out and harm other people. And so it's immoral objectively, but it's pragmatically justified, subjectively moral to do it because it saves harm overall.
Hey, TJump, I got a quick question about that, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So you said that words can't necessarily be immoral because technically they don't cause harm.
Yep.
Do you include emotional harm?
Not exactly. So you have
like in the best of all possible worlds, you wouldn't be able to be emotionally damaged.
Right. Like you would have to access that option. You have to say they are allowed to speak to me and I allow those words to affect me or something like that. So like you could just turn off the phone or whatever and you couldn't hear them talking, or mute every other person you didn't like if you wanted to, but it would be immoral to stop them from speaking. Like they have full rights over their own voice.
Hey, I got a question, Tom. So your first example was what if you see someone else getting hurt, you feel something, you feel bad for them, or you feel that that's wrong. If you see someone getting beat up or mugged or murdered or whatever, right?
Yep.
How is it different from empathy?
It's the same as empathy. It's the feeling. So the feeling is the same.
Okay, but so you're saying that that feeling is something that exists that we experience because that's wrong, regardless of, even if you don't feel empathy for them, it's still wrong, right?
Well, it's like we have a sense experience. Like I can see an ocean in the distance. Like obviously my sight of the ocean isn't the ocean itself. There is a thing out there independent of my seeing it. So we have a feeling that things are wrong, and that feeling is just our sensation. So we have an emotion, but there's also a fact of the matter that's true about the universe independent of our emotion. So our feeling, our empathy is like our sight of objects. The objects exist there independently of our feelings. Those are two separate things.
So is the same situation in the animal kingdom immoral?
Yeah, I'd say that any involuntary imposition of will, including of animals, would also be immoral. It's just they don't have the capability to see it, just like some animals don't have as highly developed eyesight as other animals.
Okay. Well, and then some animals would see it, and you can see that the animal's feeling empathy, like they go and comfort the other animal, right? Where other animals may not give a shit.
Yep.
So, but you're saying okay. Thank you.
Yeah, the only caveat there is that my hypothesis is that any animal given enough intellectual capability is going to be able to see that eventually. So they just need to have a high enough developed acuity of their intelligence to see it, just like an animal with a high enough developed acuity of eyesight will be able to see things in a very far distance. So I think it's just the reason those animals don't seem moral to us and don't seem to care about morality is just because their brains haven't developed as much.
Emotionally.
Yeah.
Well, God, I was going to kind of comment. I think you got to define a difference between survival instinct and what human beings would call morality. I think basically it's the same thing to some degree, but we gave it a name and we define what that is. We're more moral now than we were 150 years ago. I do believe sincerely that the more educated our species becomes, the better and more moral we become. Unfortunately, it's along an arduous road, though, because you're going to have a lot of dissonance. You're going to have a lot of people that disagree. They can't see the forest for the trees kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's right. Survival instinct is separate from morality because you can have a survival instinct to steal from others, and that would be immoral. So there's obviously a difference between survival instincts and morality.
And essentially that's kind of an issue of the limitations that we have in the world that we exist in. The fact that we have to do things to survive is immoral, essentially, and the fact that and with this model, you essentially have to accept that our world is just immoral. There's very little morality in our world.
But how do you determine?
I don't think morality is a natural thing. I don't think it exists in the universe. I think it's something completely made up by us. Without some kind of intellectual mind or brain, I don't think morality would exist in nature.
Now, I was about to ask a question similar to that. How do you define something as immoral without that feeling? What if something immoral happens? How do you determine if something's immoral? How about that?
Well, I'd say that it's, again, a higher order emergent property like fitness. So you can say if something dies in an environment, it's less fit than something that would survive in that environment. Now, if no beings ever existed, no animals, that property would still be there. So you don't need the animals to be there for there to be such a thing as fitness. It's just a abstract description between an interaction between the organisms and the environment. So you could understand the concept that there are potential beings, and those potential beings can interact in an environment just like there could be potential organisms that can survive in an environment. You don't actually need those to be there for it to be a real thing. Like fitness is a real thing, even if there were no animals, it's still a real thing. We just wouldn't have realized it. So the fact that we come to know morality through our intuitions doesn't mean that our intuitions are morality or that it doesn't exist without our intuitions.
And Tom, you correct me if I say this wrong. Part of your position is it is anytime somebody's their own personal will is infringed upon, you say you would say in your position that would be in and of itself immoral, correct?
Yeah, my conclusion is that any involuntary imposition of will is immoral, and that's like the objective moral principle.
Okay, and then the one one of the parts that I enjoyed, and I rewound and listened to it 3 or 4 times to make sure I was really wrapping my head around it. You were talking about if if one of my children ran out in the street getting ready to go in front of a car, right before said car hits my child, I grab the child, save the child's life. The action of me grabbing the child to save it was immoral, but it supersedes because I saved the life. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, so it's a pragmatic immoral action. So the immorality of stopping the child, because it is an immorality, you're restricting the child's will without its consent, is less than if you let it run into the street and get hit by the car, because the car is going to restrict its will a lot more by harming it severely or killing it, which is also not something it wants, presumably. And we can know it's immoral by contrasting it to, like, well, is there a more moral option? Like, if you were an all-powerful being, could you stop the child without physically stopping them, or to prevent the car from hurting them? And the answer was, well, yeah, like you could just give them a personal force field if you were like a god or whatever, in which case you wouldn't have to stop the child and you wouldn't have to stop the car. You could just like teleport the car through the child or whatever. And so there's lots of ways to solve that situation that don't involve physically grabbing the child and stopping them from being able to explore or run as they want. So there's obviously a more moral option there. The only restriction is that obviously you don't have the power to do that. So your subjective limitations given by the laws of physics prevent you from doing the truly moral thing. You only have to do the best that you can, which is just a justified immoral action, which is the least restriction of will you can do.
Okay, and then if we had any theists on here right now, this would be the question of the night. Tom, how do we get to this great explanation of morality without a supreme being setting forth these rules and regulations?
Well, the supreme being thing is stupid. Like, we don't get to any laws or understanding of nature from thinking, oh, a supreme being did it, therefore gravity. Like, nope, we see a phenomenon. There's, oh, stuff falls. And we want to try to describe the phenomenon. Like, well, how does stuff fall? Why does it fall? And we make predictions to try and describe how it interacts with reality. We don't say, oh, God did it. Like, that's obviously a complete waste of time. So we look at the phenomenon, we make predictions about the phenomenon and see how it pans out in the future. So that's how we should understand morality, just like any other real phenomenon.
Yeah, very good. We do have a good question here in the chat. I'm going to pull up. Tom, so if somebody wants to abuse drugs, you wouldn't be able to intervene since it's an imposition on their will, even though the result of you intervening yield higher utility.
Yeah, utility doesn't matter at all. Like, if someone wanted to kill themselves, they should have the right to do that. You forcibly stopping them to kill themselves would be immoral. So utility doesn't mean a damn thing. What matters is the freedom of choice. Every individual should have the freedom to do what they want with their selves and their bodies, and forcing them to abide by some set of rules that you like better because of utility or well-being or whatever would be immoral. So their choice should supersede all of those arbitrary criterion such as utility and well-being. Like, it would be
I think a lot of that, what we consider immoral, has been somehow something confused from religion. The suicide thing, by and large, is a religious thing. Should people be allowed to do drugs? Yeah, I think the war on drugs was a horrible idea. I mean, allowing people to do as they want, provided they are not hurting other people. This is a big one, and I made a TikTok video about this a while ago. It would just be helpful if everybody would learn to mind their own business until they're trying to help somebody who actually needs it or wants it.
Yeah, I think we agree on that for sure.
totally.
And sorry, I was writing down notes there because if I don't, my ADHD brain will forget everything I was thinking.
There are people with medical conditions who don't want to survive the medical condition. It's either torturous, or maybe they're going to get stuck inside of a body that doesn't function correctly. And, you know, who has the right to tell that person they have to live through that? I think we confuse some things with our morality that we probably shouldn't.
Yeah, euthanasia. We're helping assisted suicide, like Dave Warnock. You guys had him on, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's coming back on the 28th. Plug.
Yeah, I'm a huge advocate for death with dignity, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
You have to excuse me. I'm staring upwards at my screen because my camera's down low. I'm trying to watch you guys as you speak, so I look a little weird.
Oh, Ethan, I'm sorry. I thought that you were looking at Jesus.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Where is
Tom,
Jesus?
Tom, what were
I
you,
met
what
him
were you
once.
saying about Warnock?
I met Jesus once. I don't know. Yeah. Dave Warnock is somebody who is has ALS, and so he's dying, and he's going to he has a plan to end his own life prior to his inevitable physical demise becomes intolerable. And I think it would be moral to help him do that. I think that the laws and restrictions preventing that are actually immoral and cruel to stop someone from being able to end your own life and to go through unnecessary suffering that you have no choice in because of natural restrictions, like Steve mentioned.
Absolutely.
I think this world is horribly immoral. And the fact that we have to go through those things like ALS and cancer without our consent is itself immoral, even if there was nobody else there, even though no one specifically did it and no God ordained that you're going to suffer. I think that nature itself is immoral for having those things, because we could contrast it to a different nature. We could say that this world that forces these things on us is less moral than a world that wouldn't do those. Like if that didn't exist, if we could just snap our fingers and get rid of ALS or cancer, that would be a more moral world, regardless of what other people do in it.
Right.
Agreed.
No, I totally agree with that. And then Chris, which I just did the most recent, it's not released yet, but the most recent episode of Atheist Pizza with, he said, I thought you said it's immoral to take a life, though.
Yep. So I think it's always immoral to take a life without their consent. So my definition, as I said earlier, is any involuntary imposition on will is immoral. But if you voluntarily say, I would like to end my life, then it's actually moral to help them. It's not inherently immoral to kill people. It's only inherently moral to violate their will without their consent. So if they specifically consent to dying, then it's actually moral to kill them.
That's interesting to me. So killing someone is not immoral by itself. It's only if it's against that person's will to live.
Yep. Like if they want to live, then killing them is obviously immoral. But if they want to die, then killing them is moral. You're helping them.
Yeah. See, so this is it. I'm starting to get it, and I'm still reading more and more about this, because when you're raised Christian, it's like killing's bad. I don't give a fuck why you're doing it. Don't kill. And then but a good example of a Christian that is still okay with killing themselves, not really killing themselves, but my mom, I don't know, I think Steve and Oz know more about my mom than you guys, but she's Christian, and she said if she ever got to the point where she couldn't take care of herself, that she said, whatever you do, don't do anything to keep me alive, just let me go. Or if I can't take care of myself, I may even ask you to help me go. And she's Christian, so that's pretty big based on what you're taught in that religion. So maybe that's evidence for the objective morality that she's experiencing, because she feels like it's right regardless. Sorry,
one
go
of
ahead.
the problems you're going to run into with religion, especially in regards to anything around morality, is that they want to blanket everything with an absolute. Absolute no, absolute yes. There's no middle ground. There's no gray area. You can't make any. You're not allowed to make any decisions inside of that system. The decision's already made for you. There's a lot of reasons why we would want to step morality back away from the religious side of things. Obviously.
Well, I actually agree with religion on that point. I think there are absolutes. Mine is any involuntary imposition of will is immoral. So I think you can actually find absolutes. I think the problem with them is that they think there are absolutes, and it's whatever God says is the absolute, which can, of course,
Right.
be anything. God can drown babies, but it's perfectly moral because God said to. God can command genocide, and it's perfectly moral because God said to do it, and that's their absolute as God said so. So I think that kind of an absolute is definitely a problem. But I do agree in the objective absolute morality that there are some absolutes that are unchanging and universal.
Yeah. And TJump, sorry, I want to make sure we get this up here before I lose it. Chris asked again, as far as who dies and who doesn't, who decides that? Basically, who decides what is moral and immoral?
Well, like I said, I think it's a thing in nature. I think it's a fact, like gravity. Like, who decides gravity? Nobody decides gravity. It's a thing that exists. Like, reality decides it. But who decides if they want to die or not? Well, it's the individual. Like, the individual themselves gets to decide whether or not they want to live. And that's how you decide whether it's moral to help them or not. As long as they're like of age of consent and of the right mind, then yeah, they should have the right to decide that for themselves.
Yeah, I agree with TJump on that. Like, it should be up to the person, the individual who's dealing with that scenario at that time.
And Tom, to go back, because I took a note here, like I said, so I don't forget. Personally, I think free will, especially the way Christians try to define it, coming from their book, I think free will is bullshit. What's your opinion on free will?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay. Yes.
Very right.
Did you, somebody? I'm clipping that.
Is that soft or hard determinism?
TJump said Oz is right. At least somebody thinks so. Oz.
No, that's out of context. I never said that. I said, yeah, you're right. I never said the words Oz and then put that part.
Does that come back to soft or hard determinism?
Well, yeah. Hold on before you go there, because I was leading up to that, Ethan.
Okay.
I love that you said that. So Tom, you said a few minutes ago that people should have their right to free choice. So if free will is bullshit, but they could have freedom of choice, how does determinism or hard determinism fit into that?
Well, they have freedom of will. So they have a will and they have the freedom to use that will to decide whatever they want, but they don't have free will. So free will isn't the same as will itself. So will is, I desire ice cream. That's my will. I will to have ice cream right now, and you should totally get me some. But I didn't freely choose that. Like, I'm determined to like ice cream because of my biological brain state, but it's still my will. I'm still freely choosing to choose ice cream, and it would be moral to help me because that's my choice given my brain state. So it's a deterministic will. It doesn't matter whether your will is deterministic or free. It's still your will, and it's still moral to help you achieve your will, and immoral for me to restrict your will. You don't need free will for that at all. Like, free will is irrelevant. You just need a will.
Okay. And then for the record, since we brought it up, and if it comes back up in conversation, are you a hard determinist? Where do you fall there?
Yeah, I'm a hard determinist. I don't really know what soft determinism is. Compatibilism is also hard determinism. Like, that's the majority viewpoint in philosophy is called compatibilism, which is the view that determinism and free will are compatible. So you can have determined free will, essentially, which, I mean, I'm happy to accept, because it's just another kind of determinism. It's just rebranding free will to be your brain state acting unimpaired, essentially. And I mean, I'm happy with that, but I don't really know what soft determinism is. I think all kinds of determinism are pretty hard.
Well, that's my opinion. And when I go and try to look it up and research it, I don't find any good explanations of the difference of a hard determinist or a soft. So I'm like, I feel like now we're just making up titles just to make up titles. So, Samuel, I do want to go back to something you said at the top of the show, and maybe help get you some clarity for your position, because you said, this is where I'm at. I've been reading this, studying this. What is it about the objective morality, especially without a God? What is it that's tripping you up? What kind of clarity are you looking for? What do you
actually, I wanted to comment on what he said earlier. So he said it's a product of evolution. That's the thing which I'd say I disagree with, because I think that evolution is going to result in any intelligence, not just any evolved intelligence. So I think once we get AI, they're going to discover morality too. So that's the one thing I think I would disagree with what he said, is that I don't think morality is purely evolutionary, even though our understanding of it is clearly from evolution. I don't think morality itself is just a result of evolution. I think any species ever in the universe is all going to discover some kind of morality, whether they're from a result of evolution or not.
Well, by evolution, I was thinking more along the lines of just learned behavior. It's a learned behavior that evolved over time. So many hundreds of years ago, we thought owning people as property was morally acceptable. Now we don't. I think that process has changed over time. I use the word evolution for it because I don't really have a better word to describe how it worked, but that's kind of how I see that.
So you're talking
could
about
be
like moral progress, I think is the technical term.
Right, yeah. Moral progress, yeah, that would be a better, I think, description of what I'm talking about. Not so much an evolutionary process, but yeah.
Changing of morality over time, that it's getting better.
Right, yeah. I agree with that.
Cool. All right, real quick, guys, we're going to bring Cease to Know onto the screen. What's going on, Cease?
Not much. Thanks for having me. How's everyone doing?
Doing great. Good.
I can say I am a very hard determinist.
Are you, Steve?
Yeah.
Is it my fault?
Very
Is
hard.
it my fault you're a hard determinist?
You had a role in it, Ethan.
Is there something in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?
Can you guys hear me okay?
I'm determined to see you.
Yeah, we can.
It's the star next to me.
So, Cease, you look pretty dapper tonight. You look pretty dapper.
Thank you.
We're talking about morality and pissing people off and that kind of thing. Kind of what we seem to be good at. And I know you and TJump have spoken before, so I know you're familiar with his position. We just kind of started to walk through the. Like if somebody, if it's their will, they want to die, say they have a disease, a life-threatening disease, or whatever that if it's in their will, they can do that and it not be moral. But if it's against their will, so on and so forth. So that's kind of where we were in the conversation, just to catch you up. But yeah, when it comes to that, I think Ethan hit into this a couple minutes ago. That's the one thing with when you apply or you try to overlay religion on this is they try to explain things in the book as if there is this big God supplying a rule book, which we don't have that, right? We don't have a moral workbook or handbook to go off of. So that's the tough part of it. And I love the way that Tom explains it as far as whether it's gravity, like the pin is here, the pin drop. I let go, the pin drops. It is what it is. And that morality would be just like that, or just like fitness. I love his comparison with fitness. But yeah, what kind of questions do you guys have? Because I've been talking.
Well, I mean, I can give my 2 cents about what my perspective is on this conversation if you want. So I would say that I'm somewhere in between TJump's perspective, which I find very interesting, and I've definitely been thinking about since we last talked, and Sam Harris's position, where he sort of breaks it down in terms of well-being. So while, yes, I heard evolution being mentioned, I think there are aspects of evolution where we can understand where some of our moral intuitions come from, where we can look at other species and we can see that they've displayed certain notions of fairness, even though they're far less evolved than us, things of that sort. But I try to kind of stay away from the perspective of evolution because there are both, I think, violent and moral drives that can come from there. So I think it's unnecessary. I try to look at it from the perspective of something called phenomenology, which is all it really means is sort of the nature of consciousness, what it's like to experience as a conscious being. Does that have a structure or nature, or is it completely arbitrary? And I would say that it's pretty obviously consistent of a certain nature. So TJ mentioned fitness. Yeah, I go along with that. There's something that's intrinsically the case about the difference between a positive experience and a negative one. So the difference between putting my hand on a stove and feeling that the suffering that will result from that, and not putting my hand on the stove. And the fact that there may be people who have a pain disorder who may not be able to experience any of that doesn't undermine the objectivity of that experience. I think people often confuse the term relative and subjective. Like all experience is subjective, but we can have a subjective experience of something that's objectively the case. So you and I can look at a glass on a table. I'm experiencing subjectively, you're experiencing subjectively, yet we can communicate about the same thing, the glass on the table. And so what I would say is that there are certain behaviors and certain actions that we can take in the world that will result in certain kinds of phenomenological states. So if you're hurting somebody else, you're hurting yourself. If you're hurting somebody else, you're also hurting somebody else. And so is that wrong? Yes, the term right and wrong are descriptors like anything else. If I'm describing temperature and I'm saying that the weather is cold as opposed to hot, that's just the term that we're using. Like, it's just a descriptor. So I don't need any kind of metaphysical justification to say that it's wrong to hurt somebody. It's wrong because it's causing suffering. That's all we mean when we're talking morality, is what will result in suffering and well-being. And I think TJump's notion of an imposition of will is a really good one. But to me, it makes sense more in the context of well-being, because yes, there may be a case where I might want to end my life because I'm suffering, and that will put a stop to any kind of experience. But psychologically, living in a world where I have that kind of autonomy leads to better well-being while I'm alive than not. So I still kind of think that well-being relates to this entire conversation. So I don't know. I tried to break it down as quickly as I could. I don't know if that made any sense, but
yeah, no, you're good. And Tom, how does, because we know we've talked about anything that's going to go against somebody's will or whatnot, that we would consider that immoral. And what Steve just brought up there, as far as people's well-being, where does well-being and not just will fit into your framework?
Yeah, in Sam Harris's model, I don't think well-being has a definition. Like, I don't think it has a coherent definition. I think it's pretty arbitrary, and so there's no really way to calculate well-being in a way. It seems like it doesn't really accomplish anything from my perspective. It seems like choice supersedes well-being in every case I can think of, and then those I've talked to have said, well, that's just a part of well-being. I'm like, okay, but how do you separate well-being? What else is well-being? Can you give a counter example? I haven't really heard one. It seems like well-being is a very vague notion, not very hard to define. And it seems like the choice that I present, just freedom of choice or whatever, seems to supersede that in every case presented, and seems to be far more well-defined. So I don't know. It seems like well-being would fall into the circle of choice, not the other way around. So it's like all flowers or all roses are flowers, not all flowers are roses. All well-being is going to be related to choice, but not all choice would necessarily be related to well-being.
So it'd be something that's a little fluid, maybe falls on a spectrum. Like what one person is going to experience as well-being, somebody else might have a different interpretation of.
Well, yeah, it's more like the definition. Like, how is Sam Harris defining well-being versus how is a Christian defining well-being? Christian thinks that your well-being is whether or not you're in like harmony with God's nature. And so if you're doing anything against God's nature, that's against your well-being. And so like it would be moral to put you into slavery if it's going to lead you to God, or it's going to be moral to kill you to make sure you don't turn away from God. And those things are obviously against how me and Sam Harris would definitely define well-being. And the same kind of distinctions exist between my definition of well-being and Sam Harris's definition of well-being.
And man, I was going to say I have an issue with the well-being thing as well, in the sense of like, let's say one tribe's well-being would benefit from stealing supplies from another tribe. That other tribe's well-being is now harmed. But how do you outweigh which one's morally superior?
All right, so there's a few issues here that I can respond to. The fact that, I mean, the first issue is the difference of opinion on what will lead to well-being is actually not relevant, because we can have a variety of opinions and those opinions be wrong. I agree that the concept of well-being is not exactly, it's open-ended, right? I mean, that's fair, but it's not so vague to be vacuous, because the concept of health is open-ended. I mean, health now to what health was 200 years ago is a very different thing. It's evolved and it's changed over time to some, in that regard. So the fact that also what you said as far as the stealing, I'm not saying that there's only one way to live, but I'm saying that you can have a variety of ways in which you can organize your society to better the society, and also a variety of ways to hurt it. So the difference between, you can have a variety of foods, but still there be a difference objectively between food and poison. yes, you can look at a society trying to steal from another and say, well, that wouldn't benefit their well-being, but it's a false dichotomy, because you can also look at it as, well, if those societies work together, then they actually both will benefit overall rather than being in conflict. Like, working together is usually going to result to better results. Now, again, I'm not claiming to have the answer to every moral question, and I do recognize that figuring out what exactly constitutes well-being and how to navigate that is the question. But I don't think that necessarily undermines the project. It's just something that we still don't have all the answers to. But I would ask, if it's all about impositional will, the question is, like, why should that ultimately matter? I think it does matter, but I think it matters because we have a better life once we value that than if we don't.
I think picking the path of least resistance is probably useful. You bring up the two tribes. I agree with the second concept that you brought up, where the tribes actually work together. And you can use that analogy for individual people too. If there's two individual people that are at odds, then what's best for each of them would probably be a compromise. And I think that works in life in general as an unwritten rule. Moderation. There's no reason to be extreme or another of any given topic. You can find compromises for all things that benefit everybody.
Well, so I would actually have an issue with Cease's example. So we can change the analogy from the two tribes. There's a limited amount of resources. There's only enough farming area to produce enough food to support 100 people. The tribes each have 100 people. So 100 people are going to die from something. Doesn't matter how well they work together. 100 people are going to die. There's not enough food. One tribe says, we want all of our people to survive. And we have some level of cohesion. We work together really well, and we don't really get along with you guys. And so for our well-being, it would be better if all 100 of our people survived and all of 100 of your people died. Given the well-being definition, how do you evaluate what's the moral thing to do in that situation? Like, if you were Captain Kirk and like, I get to decide who lives and who dies, how do you evaluate the moral situation when there is a true dichotomy of somebody's going to die?
I would respond to that in a way that I've heard actually you respond to this type of thing, where you wouldn't say that the result is actually a moral action. You would just say that it's preferable to any other option. Like, there may be certain circumstances where conflict is inevitable. You wouldn't call it moral. You might call it maybe less immoral than letting everybody just die. Like, if your responsibility is towards your family first, you're going to try to do what you can to help that. Now, if you put in a situation where you have to hurt somebody else to achieve that, you might do what you were going to do, but you wouldn't necessarily say that it's moral. I think these are, how would I say this? I would ask, I think what I tried to ask prior, which is, while I agree with you that we should value, the freedom of choice and not having our will imposed on, why should we value that? On what grounds do we value it? I would say that we value it on the grounds that living a life where that's the standard is living a better life than where that's not the standard.
Well, I think that's a separate issue. So, like, why we value it, I don't care why we value it. I think that it's a thing. Our value is irrelevant to morality. I think it's a fact like gravity. So if we never evaluate it, that's fine. I think it's still there. So the reason we value it is irrelevant to my model. But my question is that if you define morality as well-being, and there is a case where one person's well-being is made better by another person's decrease of well-being, which is the case, like having everyone on the planet be my personal slaves and do everything I want would greatly increase my well-being. I would enjoy that quite a bit. But so it would be a fact of the matter that if you define morality as the increasing of well-being and my well-being would be increased, then it would be moral. Like, if I did these things.
Right. But for the most part, and I'm not just talking about individuals, because we are part of a global community. So I'm talking about the balance between the individual and society. And so the other thing, sorry, say it again.
Well-being shared. Not just well-being to the individual, obviously, but well-being being shared amongst a group.
Yeah, because it's a matter of fact that we are part of a global society. And also, I would say that there are certain values that are certain kinds of fact, like the distinction between value and fact, I think is not always sensible. I would say
that my analogy doesn't change if you make me a group of people and a different group of people. It doesn't change whether it's one or many. So that the question is if well-being makes something good and you can get more well-being, is that thing good because you got more well-being? If so, then my example of if I take resources from another group and kill them and my well-being is net increased and for some reason I get more well-being than they lose, then that would by definition be a moral thing, right? Because in my model, what my model says is that any violation of well-being is, or choice in my case, is immoral in any case. So it doesn't matter how much is there. If any at all is immoral. So it's not about the net accumulation of well-being. It's any violation of it is immoral. So my model seems to answer slightly differently than the Sam Harris model, because the Sam Harris model says that it's okay to force someone to stop vomiting to death because of their well-being. I'm saying, like, well, no, I don't think that's the case. So in Sam Harris's model, there seems to be a difference here. Mine says any violation at all is immoral, always going to be immoral no matter what. His doesn't seem to have that same caveat. So I don't think you can answer in the same way I do. So how would you evaluate, given the choice between my well-being or my choice and your well-being? How do you evaluate that? Like,
so I would do it. I'm not convinced that he would say that that you could call ever hurting somebody else moral. I think he would put it on a spectrum. He would say that in certain contexts you might have a behavior that is less immoral than another, but which is something that I've heard you use as well.
That sounds very Christian. I'm just saying.
Well, that you're absolutely right. That's something I use, but that's not something like anybody else in philosophy uses. That's one of the major distinctions between my model and other models. Like, they say that the least harm is the moral thing. That's what the goal of most models of morality is to do, is to give us some guidelines of what we should do. And so they think that harming one to save five is moral. Utilitarians respond to this by saying, well, if we're living in that kind of society, is itself a harm? And so if we're in the kind of society that'll kill one person to take their organs to save five, well, that itself harms the society, which would add up to more harm overall. And so their measure of morality is literally just the amount of harm. Like, if you get more goodness, then it's moral by definition. And what makes mine different from all other models is that I say, no, it doesn't matter how much utility there is. Any harm at all is going to be immoral. So I don't think.
Okay, but you would still prefer the harming one person as opposed to five.
Sure.
Right. And you would still prefer a society where even if the moral mathematics might not add up, we're not going to go and vivisect people left and right because of what the psychological results in society that would entail, right?
Well, I really don't care about the psychological results, but the question here is that if you define morality as that which brings the greatest well-being, then if killing one to save five would hypothetically bring the greatest well-being, then by your definition, that's moral. And that's the objection I have to pretty much every standard model of morality, because I think, no, I don't think that is how you define morality. I don't think it's accumulation effect of some kind of utilitarian consequence. I think it's just any violation of whatever your standard is going to be immoral, even if it's to do good or to do a better thing in the future. I think it's still immoral. So that's the fundamental difference between my version and everyone else's version, is that I don't make accumulation argument that the most well-being is moral. I don't do that, but I think Sam Harris and most other well-being models do.
So I get it. Right.
Hold on, real quick. I want to jump in here because at the as far as live minutes at the 60-minute mark, we'll kind of wrap up the morality part. And if anybody TJump, Cease, you guys want to go, you can go. If you want to chill with us, we're going to talk a little bit about the atheist kind of explosion, so to speak, on TikTok and how cool it is to see that. So for those that want to hang out, you can. If not, whatever, it's all good. But before we hit that, before we do that, Tom, the one thing I want to do to make sure that we talked about tonight in this discussion, and this was the kind of the dagger or the nail in the coffin for me as I was really digging into to what you're putting out there. Like, this is what I see. This is how I see it. I believe that this is the best way to look at it is when you talk about and we'll just keep it at the Christian God for now because that's what I know best. That Christianity says that it's an objective, from Yahweh, it's an objective morality, right? Well, it can't be. Just by basic logic, it can't be. And coming from, I had to take my old Christian brain away from that old mindset because it is subjective to the God, the agent God, right? It's subjective to him. So it's subjective to him. Then he says it's object, but it starts as a subjective morality where now. And Tom, correct me if my thinking is wrong on this, but to me, then when we do that, now we're talking about a tyrant essentially, where it's like I have the subjective morality, and you must obey what I say is moral. So can we the last 4 or 5 minutes? Can we chop that up real quick?
Yeah, so that's exactly right. Is that what Christians mean by objective is objective for humans, but anything outside of humans, God could change it whenever he wanted to. It's not objective to God, though. So it's only objective for humans, which by definition makes it not objective. Because what people mean when they say objective means applies to everyone, all beings, including a God. And if it only applies to us, like this one subset of beings over here, well, that's by definition subjective. It only applies to a certain subjective context of these individuals in this one location or whatever criterion you want. And so they're not proposing an objective morality, they're proposing a subjective morality, which they call objective for some very strange reason, just because they like the word, apparently. So yeah, I mean, a God-based morality that is contingent, that only applies to humans and not the God thingy, well, then it's subjective, because by definition, it only applies to some subset of beings, not everyone.
Wouldn't that just make it arbitrary then?
Yep.
I was about to say, yep, he beat me to it. Absolutely.
Seems kind of pointless.
And, and it's ironic when you tell Christians that you show the clear evils that we see in the world, and their retort is, well, God knows better, so it's okay if God drowns children because he has a plan. Like it's moral for God to do it because he's the one in charge. It's like, no, that's not how it works. Like it's objectively wrong if that's the case. Like,
yep.
Hey, Cease, I kind of had a question when it comes to the well-being model.
Yeah.
So let's say we plopped somebody in the best of all possible worlds based on your model, and their well-being was 100% taken care of, right? What if that life made them absolutely miserable? Would that be good for their well-being?
Well, but I think by definition that couldn't be the case.
Right.
Well, it depends on how you define well-being.
Right. I guess, the open question is what will lead to that state, but that state is intrinsically the most pleasurable and sort of meaning. What would result in the highest form of meaning and pleasure and happiness and contentment. So by definition, it's like saying, you couldn't experience those things and be unhappy, right? Because you would literally be experiencing the opposite of unhappiness.
Okay.
TJump makes good points. I think that's why I'm saying that I'm kind of in between the two perspectives. I think I'm not quite ready to abandon well-being altogether, but I definitely recognize that there are some potential issues with it. So I'm trying to find a way to sort of bridge the two perspectives.
Well, yeah, my question.
I think if we keep well-being to a very basic kind of understanding. So well-being is I'm not punching somebody in the face and they're not punching me in the face. I mean, if we overthink some of these concepts, we degrade ourselves down to a point of zero. I think we got to just take some of these things at face value at the surface level and not try to go any deeper with them. Now, the objective and subjective thing you can take as deep as you want. But as far as free will goes, or not free will, but well-being, I think that's just a surface thing. Like, just don't be a dick.
Yeah, but I think when you're trying to organize society, and the questions are sort of naturally more complex. Like, there are certain things that are face value. Like, yeah, rape is always going to be wrong, and clearly so.
Right.
But there are certain things like how to organize one's economic systems to better increase the people's freedoms and people's well-being. I think that's an open question, and I don't think that's an easy question to answer. There's a lot there to unpack.
Well, my question would be, like, if we took it to my best of all possible worlds kind of thing, like what Steve mentioned, like, what property are you maximizing? Because it seems like in the world with the greatest well-being, it's going to look exactly like my best of all possible worlds. It's just we're maximizing choice. Like, is there another property there besides choice that we're maximizing? Like, is there something else that we would add in to make my best of all possible worlds better in some way?
Well, I guess the way I see it is that in the best possible world, maximizing choice would also be maximizing well-being.
Well, yeah, but is there something else there? Because I agree that that's what it seems like. If you maximize well-being, you get my model. But is there any difference there? Is there a different property other than choice that we're also trying to maximize, or is well-being just choice?
Yeah, I mean, it may be an issue that maybe they're that linked conceptually. You may be right about that. I can't think of another variable that would be that we would be adding outside of those two, or potentially maybe they may be one and the same in some sense. Yeah, I'm not sure. I can't think of another one.
You brought up economic arguments, Cease, and I wanted to. There's an obvious right and wrong to that, isn't there? I mean, to me, there would be. The current situation we have in the U.S., where a very small portion of our population owns the vast majority of the wealth of our country, and there are a lot of people in poverty, seems like a really bad system. And I think we all know how to correct that to some degree, or at least we know the goal that we want to reach with that. So I think
hey guys, real quick. Yeah, Ethan, if you would, if you'll hold that question for 1 second for Cease, because I'm gonna let Sam wanted to ask a question to Tom, and then if Tom wants to bounce, he can when we start talking about the shenanigans that is TikTok. But Sam, you did have one more question, and then once we're done, then Ethan, I'll let you get back with Cease there.
Yeah, appreciate it. I've been trying to keep it on my mind as the topics are swaying from thing to thing. So you said something about Sam Harris believes that anyway the scenario you gave was someone was throwing up, and if they continue to throw up, they would choke on their throw up and die, and you stopping them would be immoral because it's going against their free will. But I mean, if you're throwing, I assume they're laying on their back and passed out. That's involuntary. They're not willfully puking into their windpipe. So how is stopping an involuntary act, bodily function to save their life immoral?
Well, this is actually an example that comes directly from Sam Harris. Sam Harris says, if there was a guy who just wanted to vomit to death, like he's just choosing, like, I choose to want to vomit to death, would it be moral to forcibly stop him? And Sam Harris says, yes, for his well-being, we should forcibly stop him. And I'm saying,
well, that's
no.
A big part.
Yeah.
If he wants to throw up to death, then that just, of course. Yeah, I agree in that case.
Yeah, that's my major criticism of Harris's model, where mine disagrees, is like, no, I don't think we should stop him. I think if he's not like mentally impaired and he's just choosing, he wants to do this for some crazy reason, he should have the choice to do it, and it's immoral to stop him. But yeah, if someone was vomiting involuntarily and they were dying and didn't want to die, yeah, it'd be moral to help them for sure. We should cure them.
All right, just making sure, because I could have sworn that's what you said, and I was like, no, that can't be right.
Teacher,
okay.
If you're heading out, I do have a question for you, and then I want to address Ethan's question as well. You asked how do we balance this idea of well-being, and I'm curious to see, like, how would you balance this notion of freedom? Because it seems to be the case that we might have certain things that we might want to do, which would infringe. How would I say this? Like, if you're a parent and you have responsibility toward your kid, but you don't want to have the responsibility. How do we keep society from falling apart if freedom is the only thing that we should be focused on?
Oh yeah. So my objective model isn't pragmatic. It's not meant to be. This is not a thing that we're supposed to use to judge actions. Like it's like we don't outlaw any possible involuntary imposition of will. So obviously, like I wouldn't say that if stopping children from running in the streets, we should just outlaw that, make it illegal to stop children from running the streets. Like clearly not. So I think we should acknowledge the immorality to the action. We should acknowledge it's immoral to put people in prison, and then say, once we have the technological capability to not do that, we should immediately stop doing that.
Right.
So how my model balances it is that it says that this is an idealistic, objective, absolute, what we would do if we all had godlike power. We don't have godlike power, so what is the best we can do given our limitations? But the difference in my model and the way other moral models address that is they say, given those pragmatic limitations, it becomes moral to do the minimal evil, whatever. And I think, and mine says, no, it's not. It's still immoral, and we should still say it's immoral.
So I agree with you there, but I guess my question would be, why would we be inclined to stop them in the first place? If well-being and morality are detached, then why should we not just value freedom full stop and not care if the child gets hit in the middle of the streets, and any other examples that we can come up with? Like, why should we care about that?
The same reason I eat cheeseburgers, because we like it. So we care about our well-being. It's very nice to have well-being. We don't want other people to kill us, and so we shoot them instead. We put them in prison so they can't harm us. Because we have our subjective desires of I like chocolate ice cream, or I like cheeseburgers, so I'm going to eat meat and kill cows. It's not moral to value our well-being. It's just we do. I think it's subjective that we value our well-being. So like if there was a different species, like a computer program that didn't really care about its well-being all that much, it didn't want to die though. If it would be immoral for us to harm it, regardless of its position on well-being, regardless of whatever its well-being is, it's still immoral for us to interfere with it based on my model. So I think that well-being is our subjective proclivity to like being alive, but I don't think it's relevant to morality.
All right, so I'm a cut us off there, but since like cheeseburgers and like hamburgers and shit came up in a morality discussion, I just want to say that I fucking love bacon. I love fucking bacon.
You immoral?
Hold on, you love fucking bacon?
I love. Wait. Yes, I love fucking bacon.
Oh man,
Samuel.
I thought I was the only one. Okay.
Yeah, I'm already got you all worked up there. But
you immoral monster! You killing all of those innocent animals who are clearly beings, and it's just horrible. Like the vegans are right, but yeah, I like bacon too.
TJ, whether I agree or disagree with you, I think you're brilliant. So I appreciate it.
Then I am a moral monster, just like the God of the Bible. I'm just a moral monster. But I love it.
Just that steak was awesome today that I had for Chipotle. So I'll shed a tear for the animal, but fuck that, it was delicious.
And I got a couple buddies that have them, but the gangsters get the teardrops.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna get little bacon pieces tattooed. Are you salty, bro? I
don't think that you have enough room on your face. You're gonna have to eat more bacon to make all that room.
What are you talking about? I'm chubby, dude.
That's why he won that dance battle. His butt has better butt physics than mine.
That's true. That booty bounce. But Tom, I know invited you on last minute. Thank you very, very much for hanging out with us tonight. And I'm glad we got to do this because I know Steve has, Samuel has been. I've been studying your case that your model, that you've put out. So it was awesome to be able to ask you questions real time, and maybe do this again because I think there's a lot of stuff we didn't get to talk about still.
I'd like an opportunity to talk to Tom myself, because I got some insight today that I didn't think I was actually going to get. So I'm very, very impressed with the conversation. Tom's very fun, and so is Cease. Cease to know is awesome too.
I appreciate it.
But no one else is. Steve is not
Just-
fun.
just us two.
Oz is not fun.
Yep, it's just TJump and Cease and Steve, DoLittle and Oz. Fuck you, but Tom, if you want to hang around, obviously you're more than welcome. We're going to talk about atheism and activism on the TikToks, but I do want to make sure that whether you stay or go, that you get to plug a little bit. Last time you were here, you were when I said, "Hey, what's going on and what are you doing? How can people find you?" You said something like you were raising cattle or something like that. So unless you're like now have a garden full of cucumbers and antelopes or something like that, do you have anything else going on? Where can people find you?
Yeah, I'm growing pineapples now. I've transitioned to pineapples and coconuts.
God damn it!
You can see me. You can see me growing these on my channel, YouTube.
All right, so guys, if you don't know who TJump is, you go to youtube.com/TJump. He's got tons of great stuff there, and yes, he has the debates and the dumpster fire debates and all that, but he also has amazing content like what we've talked about tonight that you can go on. You can learn a ton of shit. So go check that out and subscribe. And then he has a Patreon, and all this will be in the description after the show. You support him, support what he's doing. We just hung out with him down in Macon, Georgia, and he did a live debate down there, which was awesome. But yeah, go support him. And Thomas, as far as what we talked about tonight, any closing statements you would like to offer?
I'll praise the chair. Good night.
Hey, yeah, because his chair down in Macon, Georgia was bullshit. But no, thank you, TJump. We appreciate it, and you're welcome to hang out as long as you want. And if you're entertained by people talking about TikTok videos, no, and it's not just we're going to talk about the atheist activism that's really popped off, especially here in the last 2 months. So,
oh yeah, thanks guys. I'm gonna get some dinner. I will talk to you guys later.
Thanks, Tom.
I'll try to get you back on Axiom sometime soon. I want to talk some more.
Yeah.
Hey,
So,
Oz. You want to hear something interesting about Tom that I learned when we were in Macon?
Oh, yes.
So I was asking him about morality, and I said, so you think it's something that's real and observable to the point that we could develop a technology to monitor it? So like a morality sensor. And he said, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that in the parking lot. Yeah, I wish I'd remembered that. I would have asked him. But we'll do this again. We'll ask him when he's on. But Ethan and Cease, you guys had one more question to do with that conversation. So go ahead and knock that out, and then we'll move into TikTok.
So, like, we all, I think in general, like where I was at, we have a goal for where we want to be versus where we are. Your thoughts on like a process like that? Like, on the surface of everything, we understand where we want to be, but I think the subjective and objective arguments are how we build that. The well-being is just what we see on the surface.
Yeah, I mean, the question is how do we get to the goal that we want to have? I mean, I'm with you as far as the criticisms of capitalism that you mentioned earlier, like 100%. I think the system that we live in is very clearly unjust. The problem is that so far, no system has really worked well. And so my assumption, sort of given that, is it's going to take some kind of hybrid of systems to get to a potentially better. It's not going to be completely doing away with capitalism altogether, but it's certainly going to be about bringing that closer to certain aspects of socialism, which I think we're heading towards anyway, to some degree. So I don't think there's a clear answer. What's clear is what's not right. I mean, the fact that 99% of people, the fact that 1% of people own 99% of the wealth is clearly not right. The fact that people are working multiple jobs and can't feed their families is clearly not right. So the question is, how do we, based on these observations, derive a system which can help more people than it hurts?
Right.
And
Yeah,
that's,
I worry to some degree that if we continue to stay too deep into the conversation, if we continue to worry too much about the very basic definitions of these things, that at some point it just becomes arbitrary. In the same way that I can argue that the 1% having all the money hurts me, they can argue that me taking that money away from them hurts them. And so,
yeah. But I think it's easy to show why that's bullshit, right? Like it's easy to show
bullshit, and that's true. But that's the problem with, like, I think the well-being argument. Again, the well-being argument is just a surface argument. It's not something that we can apply to anything actively, I guess.
So here's why I disagree, because they've actually done studies on this, and they've shown how after a certain point, it doesn't matter how much money you're making, your well-being is actually not increasing. Your contentment is actually not increasing. There's a certain point in which, yes, the more you have in that context, the better you feel. But then there's like a limit like that you hit, where now anything you're doing left over from that is not actually contributing or adding to your life. So once you have your basic needs, and then you have some luxuries, then it doesn't matter anymore after that. So if you have a billionaire, we can take billions of their money because they're going to have billions left, and they're still going to be able to do whatever they want to do. They have more money that they can spend in 20 lifetimes. And so, that I don't think the issue of well-being is that surface in that context. Like, we can objectively show how that doesn't really work. That argument from their side doesn't work in the context of well-being.
Right. I completely agree with that. When you said living beyond means, when you got to that point, if they have enough that they have what they need to survive, they have what they need to make them happy, keep them happy, that's fine. Anything that's beyond that is excessive. And so, I agree with your point there.
And it's also not sustainable. I mean, it's not just that it's excessive, it's that the way that things are now is not sustainable. It's going to collapse. And I'm not the one saying this. Look at any modern economist.
Right.
Look at it. I mean, this is what they're saying, that we are headed towards a severe collapse of the way things are right now. How things will look after that, who knows? But it's definitely quite concerning. It is
concerning, and I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly on all those points you made. I was trying to play devil's advocate from their side of that argument, and
sure.
you tore it apart. So that's good stuff.
Keep in mind, I come from a far more socialist culture, so I have that kind of bias there. But
I do also agree with you that there should be a mix between various political ideologies. Capitalism by itself, especially unfettered capitalism, is kind of a toxic thing. I think any system that doesn't have restrictions on it, that doesn't have caps, is going to eventually become a toxic system.
Right.
And I think that there's some healthy philosophies if you mix kind of a varying number of systems together to create a better system.
Yeah, and hopefully we can find a way to implement that. I mean, that's the hard part, like how to actually change the status quo to doing something different. And hopefully it won't take a collapse to go there, but I'm not that positive. Like, I'm not that hopeful. That,
Cool. So we have hold on, he's back. Shh, he's back. Quit talking about him. Quit talking about him. And we have another certain person getting ready to jump on and join us for this part of the conversation, and I'll add him when he comes on here. But let's talk a little bit about the old TikToks.
One of my favorite TikTokers is Captain Dadpool. Like, I honestly, genuinely love that guy's content.
Yeah, that's my homie. Dadpool, that's my homie. He's a beast. And actually, it's going to be Another shameless plug. On the 28th, Captain Dadpool, Nate Dogg, and Oz sit down with Dave Warnock with whiskey.
Ooh.
With whiskey, scotch, and cigars. And there's a little game involved. So first we're going to have 10 atheist questions. And they're going to be just stupid, silly, funny questions. Nothing serious. And then we're going to have a little game. Each person has to bring like 3 or 4 verses in the Bible that are like, just like, if this is actually the book that came from God, why the fuck is this verse in this book?
Dude, that's the entire Bible.
Like, why is this even here?
You guys are going to get smashed.
And then the other one, well, hold on, this gets better. And the other one is, what are 3 or 4 verses that when you hear them, you know, people talk about them, or maybe you stumble upon them due to because all 3 of us were in the ministry at one time. You hear these verses, they still kind of piss you off a little bit, and you're like, God damn it. Then anytime the words indoctrination or sin are said out loud, you have to drink. Now you get 3 people. You get 3 people that were themselves indoctrinated and in the ministry.
I knew you were going to turn that into a drinking game. You guys are going to get messed up.
So I know those 2 words will be used frequently. Oh, look, everybody. It's just Jeff.
Hey, Jeff.
I wasn't ready.
The king of getting banned from TikTok.
The king of rap.
No.
Nicki Minaj will be here in a moment.
Captain Davenport was in the comment section talking about how his live got suspended just now.
Who got suspended?
Captain Dadpool.
Oh yeah, they're on his case right now. Hey, you can't beat him, ban him.
Ban him. Yep. So I'll say this, and I'll let you guys wrap for a second about TikTok. But Ethan said it when we were backstage before we started that, you know, when he first started, and I know Steve and Jeff and myself can say the very same thing. It was like people doing the dumbest fucking dances in the world, or I'm sorry, there's 3 things: doing the dumbest fucking dances in the world, or it was some chick shaking her ass like we're at the strip club, or it was Christians taking their Bible and trying to like fold it up like a burrito and shove it down your throat. You know, it was.
No, it's like Apologetics 101 in kindergarten.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you. I'm glad you gave that caveat. The kindergarten version. Absolutely. It
always is the kindergarten version.
Oh, God damn it. You're right, Ethan. My bad.
I am very familiar with coloring books now.
But now
I've never once heard an apologetic I've never once heard a sermon or apologetic that included Exodus 21. Never.
Nope.
It's always that small, happy-go-lucky, lovey version. It's always that. It's never God did anything wrong.
Nope. And they won't ever.
Except it was that fun kind of slavery that they really enjoyed doing, though.
No,
don't
listen.
forget that.
You know, can I just tell the fucking story? Didn't you guys talk?
Slavery's fine if you owe money.
We know. According to the Bible, it's all good. It's all good.
There's no other way to handle it.
Yeah. Back then, literally, when they said it was all good in the hood, they meant it's all good in the hood. Like, you can do whatever you want to whomever you want. But anyway, I'm going to finish, and then you guys talk, and I'll shut the fuck up. But when we all started, like, it was all that and no opposition to the Christian shit, right? There were no atheists, there were no agnostics, there were no fuck yous, there was nothing. And then, you know, about a year ago, some of us started meeting, then others started meeting. And then I literally, and I love that Ethan even said that when we were backstage, because it was just yesterday, I was going through and seeing who all now is on TikTok that we have either had relationships with or that have had way bigger YouTube attention and content, or I'm sorry, subscribers and everything before we ever met them. Right. And now there's this flood, and it's like, I wish Pasta Mike was here right now, because I would say with him, for him, and with you guys, and for you guys. When it comes to, TikTok and like the ones here, like we're the OGs. We're the OGs. We've been here since the jump. We've been here since the jump. And there's some people like they're just like not even 30 days in. It's like, no, we've been doing this, bruh.
TART, you guys all came together and formed the Atheist Roundtable from your friendships developed on TikTok. Exactly. I sat back and watched it all happen. It was awesome, and I got to be one of the first people you guys interviewed. Like it was, and your channel has grown. It is monstrous, and now we got people like Shannon Q on TikTok, and my roommate. Guess
who joined this week? Guess who joined this week?
You guys all know my roommate at Sunny Secular. She just threw this whole. She made up this TikTok kind of video thing, and she threw it out on Twitter. And everybody from the atheist community has commented on it, even Seth Andrews and a couple of others. And so I would genuinely love to see more TikTok atheists. I want this platform to just be straight up just secular. It doesn't have to necessarily have to be atheist, but I would love to see this platform be secular, because you guys who follow me and you guys who watch my content, you know that when I see a Christian get on and make a video, why do you hate Christians? My head explodes. Dude, I lose my mind. So I'd love to get to a place where I don't have to see that kind of fuckery anymore.
It's really amazing how much it's grown, for sure. Like it's pretty great to watch.
Yeah,
it's been astonishing.
Hey Oz, who just joined TikTok?
Yeah, who just joined?
Seth Andrews.
Oh shit!
Ooh,
hold on.
No.
Where's my phone?
I don't know if
I'm
Seth
gonna have to
Andrews
go and
joined.
block him.
But I know that Shannon Q from the ACA. I know that Shannon Q is on TikTok now from the ACA. And I'd be willing to bet that there's going to be some more that follow. It's a good platform.
There's a ton of them now have followed. They're just still like Warnock's on there now. Apologia's on there now. Who else did I see? Neil the 604 Atheist. I just saw because I followed them all. Who all was it?
Chippendales.
Fuck you.
No? Okay. I'm gonna start an account for TJump against his will.
There you go.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'm yet to make any content on there. I've thought about it. I'm still considering it.
Hold on, everybody.
Neil's TikToks are my favorite.
Hold on. Pasta Mike's in the chat room because we were just talking about because we have to give love. We have to pay homage. So Ethan was just talking about how he's one of those got to watch the Atheist Roundtable meet. All of us meet on TikTok, and now it's become this thing that it is. But none of us would be sitting here if it wasn't for Pasta Mike and his coaching, his mentoring, and for me being I won't speak for anybody else, but being like a brother and supporting me through all the shit I had to go through, deconverting, deconstruction, all that. Like not only are we like business partners, but that's my motherfucking homie all day, every day. But yeah, it started on TikTok, and look at me now. Never mind, you don't get the song. Y'all don't get the song. Jesus Christ.
How many people did to start up like different podcasts and stuff because they started on a TikTok? Like Jeff, don't you have a podcast, Murdershed? Aren't you working on something like that? Don't you guys haven't you set up your own kind of things because you got involved in this?
I am actually
I take phone calls on TikTok.
Yeah, and I'm actually getting ready to launch my own show probably in the next couple of weeks here. So stay tuned for more.
I wouldn't
from Murdershed Steve.
It's called Strange Places with Steve.
It's called.
If it wasn't for
Jeff's app,
if it
wasn't
for all you guys that I met on TikTok and the Atheist Roundtable and all this, I wouldn't be doing my show. I never thought in a million years that I would be on YouTube doing anything. So it's from that started everything. And
I think TikTok's partially responsible for the fact that you are seeing a rise on social media in general, including outlets like YouTube, of atheist speakers, people that are being more outspoken about the fact that religion is harmful to society, and there's some habits in our societies that we need to change as a result of that. I think social media has been really, and I think it's going to get bigger.
Well,
yeah.
I'll say this, and I have to jump off for like 2 minutes. I know of, and I'm sure there's more, but I know of 2 people right now that have either completely changed their position or just either our TikTok content or our YouTube content has helped them to finally say, okay, either, yes, I don't believe this anymore and I'm walking away from it, or, okay, you have helped me to confirm my position that I don't have a good reason to believe in this anymore. And one of them is on screen with us right now. Mr. DoLittle is one of them. And Nate Dogg, a lot of people don't know, I've known Nate for fucking 20 years. And we grew up in the same type of church together. And his ex-wife was best friends with my ex-wife. And now, and I remember one day, it was like a fucking 3-hour long phone conversation, hour-long phone conversation. It's like, and I don't say that as like it's a drill. It's like, when you care, you put that time in. Like you go through that shit. And it was like the first conversation, like 3 hours, like, what about this? Where do I go? How do I find this? But what about this? And how do I do this? And, and going through all of that. And now this is the most confident and happy that I've ever seen him, and now he's wanting to pursue things and dreams and things that he wanted for himself that everybody else shot down because it wasn't God related. Right. It wasn't.
That's part of the plan.
That's not your calling. The Holy Ghost didn't tell you that. Yada 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 yada. So it's amazing to see that. And I know there's others. It's not just TART. I know there's going to be other channels and platforms that can say the same things we do, but we're here in the moment talking about it. And like Ethan said, to think that I know the first time I logged on to TikTok when I saw Mike's Ministries, which was Pasta Mike's, original account name, that I was like, I literally just like, oh, this shit's just going to be fun. Like, I'm just going to laugh my ass off all the time. And then now we skip, year, well, now that we've met each other, over a year, but, almost a year we've been doing the channel. It's like, no, not only do I still laugh my fucking ass off, but I've found fucking friends, man. I've found really, really good friends, and that's badass.
So, and I mean, I don't know about your all's following count on TikTok. How is that going for you guys? In the last month and a half, I have jumped 6,000 followers. It has been insane. 3 or 4 of the videos that I've made in the last month and a half have gone on just unbelievably viral. And I did not realize that. And my brand of atheism is different from you all's. And I'm pretty sure everybody's aware of that. I'm a dick. I'm a straight up asshole in my TikTok, and I don't apologize for it. You guys, you are there having those intellectual, philosophical conversations. How has that affected your guys' channels on TikTok specifically?
Well, real quick, before anybody answers, Wintershed 1999 super chat. Murdershed Steve, what do Wintershed have to say?
All this love is just disgusting in her, y'all. Up in her.
In her.
Up
in her.
So
in her.
My TikTok following is atrocious. It's pretty much non-existent. Always has been. I got lucky on one Bang video and gained like 1,000 followers, and that's all I got. I don't understand it, especially because I am absolutely everybody's favorite character on TART, without a doubt. And we have over 2,000 subs here. I can't get them over on TikTok. I don't get it.
You got to play the game.
72. How about that?
You got to play the game, Steve.
72.
I've been shadow banned for almost an entire year.
You're not shadow banned. You're just not making good content.
And Jeff, that's why I live in your attic and watch you sleep at night. Because I get to decide when you stop.
That's how breathing. I sleep. That's how I sleep soundly, though. I know you're protecting me.
Well, Jeff gets banned every other week. So.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So I've gotten really good at getting 1,000 followers in a short period of time because, if I'm not quick enough, I'm not going to have an account anymore.
Yeah, no,
I haven't
get
had
into
any
the
of my
dumbest
accounts
stuff.
permanently banned yet. So if that's the secret,
Yeah, I'm on my
definitely
5th
messing
account
up there.
now.
I mean,
I don't know how the hell my account has
I don't
not
either.
gotten. I'm
Have you made
seriously.
any videos? Ethan, have you ever made an anti-Islamic video?
Yes, recently, because people keep getting my comments about that shit. Why don't you pick on Islam? How about you go fuck yourselves?
Well, I do love no matter what religion you're talking about.
Why the hell do
I'm talking about? It's always the whataboutism.
Right.
Well, yeah, it's always the what about. It's always the deflection. Why do I have
What
to
about
go
the
to
Jews?
Islam is not trying to dictate my life as a gay man in the United States.
Yeah.
That's Christianity. I don't give a shit. I'm sure there's atheists in those countries that deal with Islam all the time, and they're having their hands full. And I wish I could help them, but we kind of got our hands full here.
I don't think they last long.
Yeah, probably not.
I have a guy that lives in. He's a homosexual individual that lives in Mecca, and gives me a lot of great information about the Quran because he's forced to study it at a schoolery level there. And he's open. He cannot be openly homosexual because they will kill him, and he can't be openly atheist because they will kill him. So he lives vicariously through us because we can make the content that they can consume but not make.
Yeah. You know, I wish that, I mean, let's say, for instance, hypothetically speaking, we get Christianity under control in this country and we get that separation of church and state and it fucking stays, then I think we could probably help the rest of the world with their problem. But for right now, I got my hands full with, you know, the concept that if not for American law or Constitution, I would be a murdered statistic. Christians would be equally as brutal as any other religion on the face of this planet if it was not for American law and the U.S. Constitution.
Well, I think using so here's the thing. Wherever I see, I don't care if it's YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat, whatever the fuck platform is next.
Right.
Wherever there's dumb shit being spouted, people need to be there to counter it.
Oh,
and
100%.
when you're there to counter it, the defense should be better information. And if it's not better information, it's banning, name calling you out for being hateful or whatever. When in reality, it's just counter speech. You know, if you say God is good and I say God isn't good, that's the same level of respect that was given. I'm just countering what you said. So you do not get privilege to come into a public forum and say, hey, God is good, and get protection for that. You know, like you don't get protection from criticism. And I think that's what they want, is that privilege to be protected from criticism.
Yeah, and where did that come from? When did it become a thing that your religion,
when God was too weak to protect himself?
You know, shit. But like, that's the thing. You run into it all the time, especially on TikTok. You can't question my faith. You can't disrespect my faith. What the fuck is that? When did an idea become beyond reproach?
But I feel like it's always been the case. People don't want to have their, dogmas challenged because it's too hurtful to them. It's like your feelings are not my problem. Like, I can try to be respectful as much as a person can, but there's no nice way of saying you're delusional and you're irrational.
And you don't get to come in and tell someone that they need to be murdered for their belief system and that they're going to hell and going to be punished forever without a retort.
I mean, there's that dichotomy there, right? They're willing to figuratively or whatever damn me to hell for being a gay man, but if I tell them that I don't think their God is real, they suddenly feel attacked.
Right, and that's the thing. It's I have no patience for that kind of arrogance. Like, believe what you want, but if you're using your beliefs to then hurt the lives of other people, it's like, no, I'm not going to respect you. I'm going to call you out for what you are. And if you have a problem with that, that's your problem. I don't give a shit.
Ethan, did you see that guy's video where the guy that's like, why do you hate Christians? You've seen that one?
I stitched the shit out of that one. You need to go back.
So I saw a stitch the other day, and the guy was like, look, we don't hate you. We just find your lifestyle to be really disrespectful, and I can't support that.
Like, his comeback.
I just don't think you should get married, really.
Yeah, his comeback is so much better than mine because it's flipping the script, right? It's saying, I, as an atheist, don't agree with your Christian lifestyle. I don't think you should have the right to be married. I don't think you should have any basic human rights or protections. You should be checked. Yeah, all that shit. I thought that was brilliant comeback.
Because all you're doing is saying the same stuff that they're saying, and it's hateful for you to say it. but it's not hateful when they do it to you. You know,
Right.
that's the double standard that I wish they would see. And I know we make fun of it through satire, but this is like real shit. You know, this is like real impactful shit.
The comeback for them is always hate the sin, love the sinner. I don't feel loved. Sorry,
No.
I don't.
Hate,
I've made a video.
hate the
once.
belief, love the believer.
But here's a real twisted dichotomy I can't quite understand. So somebody maybe sees to know, maybe you understand this. I made a video a while ago where I said the best way to improve society is everybody just minded their fucking business. People got mad at me for saying that. They said that I wasn't minding my own business by suggesting that other people should mind their own business. I honestly can't wrap my head around that one.
They're operating, like most religious people, on the assumption that it's their job to save us, and so they think they're doing the right thing by going around and trying to convert us. Which I actually, if that's their, how they want to spend their time, that's fine. But I don't have a problem with that. But then, what I can't have any patience for is when they get butt hurt when then they get called out. It's like, you're fine, come to me, tell me what it is you believe, and then I'll tell you the same. And if you get offended, well, then get offended.
Or call campus police.
Here's
it's psychotic.
Here's something that really does bother me with that, what you just said. They're trying to come and save us. Now, while the Bible does say that they should do that, the Bible also tells them to shut the fuck up and keep their faith to themselves. So why do they choose the one and not the other?
Because it makes them feel special. They want to feel like they're heroes in their own delusional stories.
Okay.
And
that makes sense. Yeah. They want to feel self-righteous in their imperative position.
Right. I don't know. Like I keep thinking about the last episode I did where we had a Muslim on, and literally the entire time he was making excuses for pedophilia and slavery and imperialism on their end, as though it's the norm and what should be accepted if you actually take Islam seriously. And then it's like, well, how do you expect us to not talk bad about your faith if that's what you're calling your faith? If that's your ideology, then we're gonna have a problem.
Yeah, I remember when you called him out on that, and he was like, "Well, they did it too. It wasn't just us." And everybody's like, "What does that have to do with anything?"
It's mind-boggling. Yeah, and if you read the comments on that video, the comments from other Muslims on there, somebody literally called me fragile because I'm against pedophilia, and I'm calling the time period where it happened. I'm not saying it's right because it took took place at an older time in history. No, it's still fucking wrong. And suddenly I'm fragile for saying that. Just mind-boggling.
God actually. Oh, I'm sorry. I heard that God actually was Jeff. I heard that God actually was trying to shut down all the atheist TikToks, but TikTok actually has a lot of chariots, so he wasn't able to do it.
Yeah.
I want to throw this up from Atheist Cats. He says that he fights because he could lose his job as a teacher as an atheist because parents complain.
That is so
complain.
Wow.
Terrible. I honestly hate that so bad. I have a family of teachers, and I understand a lot of what they go through as teachers, especially in regards to relationships with the children's parents. And that's one of those things that's just disgusting. Like so when was that study done? You guys, was it 2013? I don't remember. There was a study, Pew Research study. They asked parents if they would rather have their children taught in public school by a rapist, a convicted rapist who had sat prison time, or an atheist. And overwhelmingly, American citizens said they'd rather have the convicted rapist teach their children in the school system. And I'm like, what kind of misinformation have these people gotten that put them to that level?
Because they get their information about atheists the same place they get their information from science, church.
Well, they think if you don't believe in God, you do not value life and nothing matters. So fuck everything. That's what they think. If you don't believe there's a God, then what's the point of anything?
That's
a pathetic way of being.
That's why I love this community so much. I want this community to grow because every one of us in this room right now understands that as atheists, we have kind of a harder grasp on this life. We understand that this is it. We can't fuck around with this, and we take the penalty today. I think I'm safe in assuming that every one of you are also humanists, because not by definition, I've met shitty atheists. In general, I think a lot of atheists that are in the community are also humanists. We want what's better for everybody in the long run. Period.
If you need God,
the more of us that are out there doing this, the more those kind of bullshit lies get set aside.
If you need God to value other people, to value family, to value meaning, if all those things become lost without, this assumption, there's something psychologically wrong with you. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
I think you're right, though. I think there is something psychologically wrong with a lot of the Christians, because I was one of them. Because everything goes back to God. Like every little thing in your life, every thought goes back to God when you're that deep into it. So it is a psychological issue.
That is.
I'd say some delusional thinking, but not
right.
I
contemplate that.
Not like you.
I'm always wondering how can somebody become convinced of something so to the extent that their apologetic for Exodus 21 is, well, that was just okay at the time.
Have you read further down in Exodus 21?
Yeah, I've read the entire thing.
So the chapter ends with a very weird paragraph, and it's talking about whether or not the penalties for if you own an ox and that ox gets loose and gores someone, how you should be handled in that situation. Right. And it specifically denotes that if you have an ox that gores someone and kills them, that you are to be held responsible for that if you did not have your ox contained in an area properly. Unless, and if Ethan has an ox, it gets loose because he didn't have a proper pen and kills somebody, Ethan is now to be murdered. Or he has to pay money to the dead family of whatever they want, apparently. There's a specific clause in there, though, that says if it's a slave, it's 30 shekels. So there is a value of life given in that situation that says a slave's life is worth 30 shekels. And if you're a non-slave, then your life is worth different. There's a value difference there. There is no explanation for saying that one person's life is worth more than another. There's no apologetics that gets around this problem. But the mental gymnastics that they're willing to do to try and justify the belief that they hold is insane. I mean, I have the guy on TikTok right now, a person of color, defending slavery to me, calling me out on it when I have to remind him of his history and how this is disrespectful to a lot of other, people of color that are atheists.
And how Christianity was used to justify that history.
Right. The slave Bible's a real thing. They cut out the story of Moses and gave them that.
They have copies of that goddamn thing in a fucking museum.
Yeah,
this is a real thing that really fucking happened. They used the Christian Bible to convince an entire group of people to remain slaves. And that group of people is still religious by that standard today. And I cannot, you're right. I realize, there's a lot of pushback on calling religiosity a mental illness, but that's extreme.
But that's why I can only laugh when someone claims that morality has to come from the Bible, because it clearly doesn't. And it's just, I don't know, it's psychotic. And as far as, Jeff, what you said, there's nothing more pathetic to me than one minority talking shit about another. Like the amount of, I've been following that exchange you've been having. It's just so ironic and depressing that he has such blinders on. Like, you just can't tell.
The argument he made most recently was basically to the effect of, well, what did you expect God to do? As if this all-knowing, all-loving God cannot figure out a way to help people out without slavery.
Is God all-powerful or is he not? If he's all-powerful, then he can just snap his fingers.
This MFer goes around burning down cities that allegedly were homosexual, but won't stop his own people from having slavery because it's just too inconvenient for the time.
Yeah, it's just
he's got
a huge problem.
Fabrics or eat shellfish, but he can't
Yeah,
tell you not
you
to.
can't have mixed fabrics. You can't plow a field with an ox and a mule. That is specifically notated to not do.
Oh,
right.
You can't shave, or you should shave. You can't cut your hair, or you should cut your hair. But
Your
he
head's
can't tell
covered,
you
your
again.
head's not covered.
He can't tell you again not to rape a fucking person or own a person as property. I've said it in my comments more than once, and as of this video now, I will probably make one. I'm fucking smarter than the Christian God, and I'm an idiot.
Yeah, I can do it better. Any of us could do it better. Any of us could write the book better. And here's like I was listening to Randolph talk the other day, and he had a really good thing about his requirements for a God. Why is it that every God that is written about, be it Allah, Vishnu, Yahweh, whatever, all of them have human emotions?
Yep.
All of them are bigger versions of a human, and all of them need humans to speak on their behalf. Like, you're telling me this all-knowing, all-powerful that can create the entire universe is dependent upon human emotion?
And by the way, none of them agree. They all think God is saying something different.
Right. So I think you're all wrong. Your books are all flawed.
And he can't do anything amazing anymore, apparently. All the amazing shit was way long time ago. I mean, you could take some mushrooms and see some amazing shit, just like in the Bible. And write it down, and there you go.
It just
saying, don't do that.
Think clearly. I've talked to Christians. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I've talked to Christians who conflate the possibility of something being real with the evidence for the thing being real. It's like it's not remotely the same thing. Like people just can't think properly. They're so they.
I think that's an honest failure of the education system in the United States. I don't know how it is the rest of the world. Obviously, I've never traveled. I don't know. But here, we don't teach critical thinking skills. We don't teach people how to break down and do fact checking and all that other stuff. And that's a problem, I think, with our system. I think that needs to be resolved. And I mean, an obvious result of that was QAnon and 75,000 people voting for Trump. They couldn't break down the facts of a given situation. They couldn't critically think about what the issues are. Even though we know for a fact that on average, Democrats do better with our economy, abortion rates go down under Democrat. Generally, American society does get better in the short term when there's a Democrat in office. Still, a third of this country will always vote Republican. Like, that's a thing.
I think a lot of it's education for sure, but I think a lot of it is also the problem of wishful thinking. Like, there are people that you can send facts to, you can send research to, and they just don't care because they want their delusion to be true, and they're going to ignore anything you give them. And at that point, it's like, what do you do?
That's actually true. Wasn't there a scientist that was quoted and he said his quote was, even if there was absolute evidence that all of existence wasn't created, he would still believe that it was.
Well, I mean, at that point, the fact that someone can say that and not be embarrassed.
Yeah, that's just fucking shameful.
Yeah.
How you call yourself a scientist and say that stupid shit is beyond me. What do you guys? Okay, so we've ragged on Christianity for a hot minute. What do you guys think of the new Wiccan rise with old pagan style religions? Now,
hold on real quick. Sorry. Hey, Ethan, real quick. Sorry. Yeah. And even more than the Wiccan rise, I think we have a voice here in somebody that we can just crash the Muslim party. Muslim. I'm still learning, guys. I'm still learning.
You have to go to school for at least 5 years.
I am an uneducated asshole, so don't mind me. But the one and only Infidel Noodle is with us, so we can dig in, and I have to finish up a phone call here, so I'll be right back. But Infidel Noodle, thank you again for being on the Atheist Roundtable. Appreciate you being here, and I'll be right back.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, Noodle.
I'm a huge fan of the noodle. You are an ever-living badass. I bow before your greatness.
Seriously, you're
I couldn't begin to touch, sweetie. You are ever-living badass.
Thank you so much. That means so much to me. I really appreciate it.
like I
Keep your
think
strength. Keep pushing.
you're literally a hero of mine. Like I think
Absolutely.
what you're doing is amazing, and I'm really glad that you're doing what you're doing. So thank you.
Oh, guys, I wasn't ready for all this praise. Oh my God, I thought we just came on here to talk some shit. Jesus.
Well, let's just talk shit.
We have to counter because I know you probably just went through 15 emails and a bunch of messages, so then we have to be the other side of that equation.
I want to talk about Jeff's pajamas.
I'm not wearing. Well, I am wearing. This is a
Or
Michael
lack
Kors
thereof.
outfit. This is Michael Kors pants, pajamas.
Calm down,
Right.
Gavin. Calm down.
Jeff, I know that's not what you wear to bed.
It is what I wear to
For
bed.
sure. No.
Oh.
I
No,
bet
no,
you
I-
take them off after you're sleeping.
Murdershed, I have to admit something to you. Please don't hate me. Me and Jeff were in bed the other night and cuddling, and he doesn't wear pajamas.
I'm actually fully aware of this, and I highly encourage this.
And also, both of you need to go get tested immediately.
Yeah.
Thies, did you have a question? You look like you had actually a real question.
Yeah, I was saying, I don't know if you will have the time, but if you check out the last episode we did, we had a Muslim on, and I got him to admit how Islam basically is for slavery and rape and all these things. Like, and he just said it like matter of fact, like, yeah, it's not a big deal. Like,
they own
it. It just, I was just kind of in shock. I was like, wow, I thought it was going to be harder to expose this shit. And instead, I don't know.
Well, I think one of the things that frustrates me with the Muslim faith, with Islam, is, and Infidel Noodle, you were a part of this. I kind of dived into it a little bit. There was the gentleman that was threatening to out you a week or two ago. And there was another gentleman that was in there with him. And the one gentleman was swearing up and down that Islam is a religion of peace. And that could not be more painfully fucking untrue. And I don't understand a lot about it. I haven't read the Quran. I know of some of the things that happen within that. Could you explain from your perspective, what are some of the things that contradict that concept that the Islam is a peaceful religion?
Jeff is holding the answer to that question in his hands right now. But basically, this concept of Islam being, a peaceful religion and that kind of thing, it's still fairly new. So it's a very new narrative that people introduced in the Western world to try and butter up liberals into seeing that Islam is this, rainbows and sunshine religion. Obviously, when you sit down and read the Quran itself, the things that are going to start jumping out at you are, first of all, there's a ridiculous obsession with disbelievers. There are graphic, disturbing descriptions of how disbelievers will have their skins roasted off in hell and then regrown, only to have it roasted once again over and over for eternity. There is blatant justification for slavery littered throughout the entire text. There are blatant justifications for rape within the text. So you are permitted to rape your slaves, as long as they're not a Muslim, of course, because the dirty disbelievers, you can do whatever you please with them. They don't matter. They're less than humans. There's the misogyny and the homophobia as well. I don't find that very peaceful. I don't think it's peaceful that women are considered to be property, or that men are permitted to engage in domestic violence, and that is seen as a God-given right. So I think depending on, if someone was really to put forward that Islam is a religion of peace, I would say that their concept of peace is probably very different to what we see it here in the Western world.
Yeah, I understand that. A new episode of The Thinking Atheist just released, and Miriam, I'm slipping her last name. She's an ex-Muslim
Mariam
activist.
Namazi.
Yes, that's it. She did a documentary. I do believe it's on YouTube. I'm not entirely sure about
Women leaving Islam?
yes, women leaving Islam, and some of the stories are a little rough. I thought Christianity and being targeted as a gay man was bad. Y'all got it worse than I've ever had it. And so we give the respect for it too.
And it's particularly depressing that the left, and politically I'm on the left on many issues, but the left, out of white guilt and a guilt of imperialism, are willing to support a religion which is grounded in imperialism. Like they're just completely detached from reality, and there's just sort of this racism of low expectations where they think of Muslims as a victim of Western whatever, and now they're getting in bed with an ideology that they would have problems with if it was taking place in this country. Like it's just.
Well, I think a lot of the problem with that is that what you see in these Middle Eastern countries is actually a result of American action on foreign soil. If you go back to Pakistan, Afghanistan, and these countries back in the 1940s, the women in these countries were wearing low pump heels, knee-high dresses, blouse shirts. The religion wasn't really that dogmatic or that big of a thing. It was American politics that put these the jihadist-minded individuals in power in the 1970s. And through the 80s, it just became a thing, and now you have what you have today. I think the CIA has an actual term for it. They call it blowback. And that's why we see what we see today with religious extremism in the Middle East. It's a direct result of American action on foreign soil.
But I would say, and Noodle, tell me what you think about this, but I would say it's a combination of things, because the problem, it's not extremism. The problem with religion is not the fundamentalists. The problem is the fundamentals. If Islam was truly a religion of peace, regardless of what the U.S. did, we wouldn't get these interpretations. So yes, of course, the U.S., there's a lot to blame there for their foreign policy. Certainly, I'm not defending much of what the U.S. or most countries have done in their history, but you can't sort of divorce the religious dogma and the text. The reason why we didn't see those things back then, sort of the fact that for centuries we did, and then it changed into more modernity. But the reason why it was better back then was because they didn't take the religion as seriously.
Right.
Yeah,
it wasn't literal.
Go ahead.
Yeah, look, I don't think we can. I mean, I certainly think that the US has a role to play in furthering the way that extremists are approaching and practicing Islam, but I don't think that we could single out Western influence and say that is the cause which led to the way that fundamentalists are practicing it in this day and age. Because when you strip back this airy-fairy interpretation of Islam that you often see in the West, and you actually examine the ideology and the fundamentals of this ideology for what it truly is, for example, if you refer specifically to Islamic scriptural texts like the Quran and the Hadith, you're going to see it plain and ever that it is the religion itself that is playing a significant role in contributing to this violence. So I think it's very important that we examine that part of it as well and look at the religion objectively and acknowledge that there is inherent violence within this ideology.
I think, and I want to expound on what you just said. Christianity is no different. I just made a TikTok video about this. If the United States' law and Constitution did not exist separate from Christianity as it does, we would be the same. The United States would be equally as violent in their religious belief as any other country is in regards to Islam. And I think that you're right. What you're saying, the American politics getting involved where it shouldn't, isn't solely to blame. It's people taking the religion itself too far.
But there is one clear distinction, however, is that Christianity has, as awful as Christianity is, and I think it's terrible, it has gone through Reformation. Islam hasn't. And so while, yes, you get the fundamentalist in Christianity, percentage-wise, it's not quite as high.
True.
And
so
I
don't think Islam is capable of of that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Because they call themselves the final solution. That's their religion. I don't think they can have a reformation. Can they?
I hope they can.
Islamic Reformation, if at all it is even possible. I mean, there are a significant proportion of ex-Muslims that will tell you it is never going to happen. And a lot of the time, that's sort of where I end up siding. I mean, there are days where I have a glimmer of hope, seeing these younger sort of ex-Muslims on TikTok pushing for a more liberal view. But then every time you see that, there is this enormous wave of your more fundamental believers pushing right back and saying that's not the true Islam. And the reason for that is because the Quran is supposed to be considered Allah's perfect message, his final word. You are not supposed to touch that text. There is no justification from an Islamic point of view to reform the religion because it is supposed to be considered perfect as it is. And so no matter how much people push for reformation and push for change and liberal interpretations of the text, there is always going to be the majority who are pushing back against that. And it doesn't help when people in the West are using terms like Islamophobia to essentially protect Islam from being criticized. I mean, it's being held back not only in Muslim countries, but here in the West too. We're enabling it and we're holding it back from that reformation.
I just got called out in the comment section and called Islamophobic because I challenged Islam. I don't remember exactly what the context was, but it's something that happens quite a bit. You hear it, well, you're just an Islamophobe. I said, that's not a thing. You can't, phobia is an irrational fear. I'm a gay dude in America. If I was a gay dude in an Islamic country, it would be a rational fucking fear. So Islamophobia is just a non-thing. It's not real. Again, it's just suppression or marketing or whatever the hell you want to call it to soften the blow on this. You're being basically racist or xenophobic. No, I'm not. I'm being a fucking atheist and your religion sucks.
It's just intellectual dishonesty. They say that because they can't defend their views, and so they have to shut down the conversation. I mean, right. I've told this. I'm not going to go into the story, but I've had campus police called on me because of a perfectly not offensive comment I made at a conference at my university and at a Muslim convention thing about media, and they all freaked out and called the campus police like I was a threat.
God,
like it was just pure delusion.
What?
How do we counter that? How do we counter
a question
that?
for Infidel.
How are we doing now?
Did you change your hoodie?
Huh?
Did you change your shirt? I think it's got a stain. You're wearing a backpack or something.
I put my hoodie back on, Jeff, but thank you. But real quick before you guys keep going on, we do have one more person backstage to bring on screen here.
Hello there.
Hello. Hi. I'm not in my Jesus attire. You guys have a behind the scenes video of me with my hair.
Come as you are. Come as you are.
What's up? How's everyone doing?
Doing well. How are you?
Good. Can you hear me? I don't even know if my head.
Yeah, we can hear you. Sounds good.
Rad.
Yeah, I just know DoLittle said, "Come as you are." Are we going to do some Nirvana remix, or what do we do?
No. As he is, not as he was.
Well, we were talking about TikTok and like pushback or attempts to get your content removed for not even being offensive. Have you? Because you've got probably in the room, you've probably got the most followers. I don't know if you get more strikes if you have more followers.
Yeah. No. So I have a feeling that it's almost like instant as soon as I push something out there because it'll go real slow. I mean, that's the algorithm. That's what it does. But anything that has anything to do with homosexuality gets taken down usually for about 30 minutes to an hour, about an hour after I post it, and then I have to appeal it. And they're getting faster, I think, because my platform's getting bigger. But my name got taken down for like 48 hours, and they put me on like a huge mass warning. I wasn't allowed to post or do anything because the name Gay Jesus was offensive, and it was hate speech. So that was an interesting one. I went back and forth with TikTok on that one for a while. And I'm like, I am gay, calling myself gay.
Yeah.
I'm doing religious content, pro-religion. If you look at my videos, it's actually very nice. It's all about Christianity. And I'm like, that's both protected groups. They are both protected, so don't come at me.
Their whole setup is so enraging.
Amazing.
Like,
the amount of offense that people can take when it comes to any challenge to their religious ideologies or ideas. Or one of my other favorite TikTokers is Scotty Wartooth. Does Jesus? He mimics Jesus, or he does. Yeah, and his is really friendly, right? Like he's not even trying to be the atheist advocate or activist. He's just being a content creator, and people will still hate his ass for it.
But Ethan, to answer your question as to what we do, we keep doing what we're doing now. We call out these terrible ideas.
So that was the question before. What do we do about religious extremism? How do we bring it back to moderation?
We keep calling it out for what it is, and we keep fighting for human values. And if it's going to come down to a more serious confrontation, then it is what it is. But for the time being, it's just get our voices out there, support those who need support, and try to continue to engage in honest conversation.
Would look at people like
those.
I'm going to keep creating accounts. I don't care how many get banned. I'm going to keep creating accounts and keep making content. And you look at somebody like Noodle, who's had real life death threats and information threatened to be leaked. She's not stopping. She's not fazed by that, which takes a lot of gall to be able to do. And I know also some of the work that she was talking about when she was on before about helping people that are in those countries that are being oppressed. Like that's the work that really is going to make a big difference. It's the silent people, the people that watch our videos and don't say anything, the people that watch the videos and confide or start looking or go read their Bible because I told them to, and go read Exodus 21. So those are the people that I kind of why I make content, and I'm not going to stop. I don't care if accounts are free.
My perspective is I will argue with anybody on any platform. I don't care.
No, you won't.
I'm not trying to change their mind. I'm not. I have no interest in changing. If I'm in the middle of a debate with one individual, I am not trying to change their mind. I am worried about the people who are watching the conversation, paying attention on the sidelines. They're on the fence. They don't know what they believe. Or maybe they're on the fence that they believe in their religion, but they're just on that fence, and they need somebody to give them that extra shove to go and do their own research, to go and look up the information on their own and figure it out for themselves. And I think that's the best we can do. But growing this community, which obviously, even Oz has mentioned, growing this community and making it bigger is paramount. And the fact that it's gotten as big as it has on TikTok in the short amount of time that it's gotten it's inspiring, especially with somebody like Infidel Noodle. We need more people from the ex-Muslim community in here too, speaking up. Because I had a Muslim recently, and I'm sure some of you saw my video, equate being an atheist to being a rapist, and I lost my shit, and they took down my video for it.
I kind of wanted to touch on what Ethan was saying right there too, because I find that interesting. I was having a conversation with JMike the other day, and when I first started TikTok, I was always trying to monitor my comments and try to delete anything that I found offensive or just steering the conversation in a way I didn't want it to. And he brought up the great point that he leaves everything up, all the negativity, all the hate, because he really wants to expose the people who are, fundamentalist and just acting like, baddie. And he thought that was the most important part about his platform, is not even necessarily having the discourse, but just showing the true side of a lot of these people and their thought processes. And I think that's back to what you said, just giving it a platform so that they're exposed is probably the most important thing.
I also leave up all comments and things like that simply because I believe in freedom of speech and freedom of expression. You can say whatever you want,
right?
But I'm going to call you an asshole, and I have the right to call you an asshole as well.
Yes. That whole cancel culture shit, fuck that.
Well, unless we're talking about cancel religion.
Yeah.
No, I actually for fun, it's fun to do that and poke the bear. But no, you can have your religion, but that doesn't mean we're going to shut up. Doesn't mean we're going to keep our mouths shut.
See, I want the extremist voice from Christianity. I want the extremist voice from Islam. I want that shit out there and seen. I want those extremists, those batshit crazy fuckers, out there and being seen, being public. Because the more they fuck off and say stupid shit, the better off we look, and it pulls people out of their religion.
But isn't that like a double-edged sword there by giving people like a certain pastor, more, or a certain, Muslim scholar, or like what happens when we give an extremist a voice? Like what happens
Well, it
when
depends on the level of extremism, right? So here in Arizona, there's actually a pastor named Stephen Anderson. Some years ago, I do believe he publicly called for the death of gay people. I think he said something along the lines that it was a Christian responsibility and it should be an American right to kill gay people. People like that there's no reason they need a platform. That kind of extremism does not need to be heard at all. But the people who are like, come to Jesus, come to Jesus, come to Jesus, Jesus loves you, they're just so adamant, and that they're willing to, like we were talking earlier, just gloss over things about like slavery in the Bible and sexism and racism and all that stuff. Those are the ones that need to be seen. Because if you look at a secular, humanist, moral kind of system, and then you look at a Christian moral system, I mean, church attendance in the United States over the course of the last 50 years has fallen exponentially, and it continues to fall. Why? Because Christians keep backing their asses into a hole. They keep coming out as the bad guy. And society is starting to see that. And I think, Infidel Noodle, you might be able to back that up on your end of things too. I think, do you see a rise of extremism with Islam, or is it starting to kind of maybe taper to some extent? Are there smaller groups trying to get away from the extremism?
Infidel Noodle, before you answer that, because I do want to speak to the chat real quick. We, as a channel, we are all about freedom of speech. But as soon as you think you're going to come into our chat and try to dox somebody or take personal shots or anything like that to anyone that's a guest on our show, if I don't get to you first, one of the mods will, but you are not welcome here and will not be welcome here. Period, point blank. So don't think you're going to come in here talking that shit and somebody's not going to get rid of you or call you out. So there's already been 2 people just in the short time I've been back that you're blocked. Like, toodles. Like, you're not coming back here. So if you're in there, like, do what you do, but just know if you post it, you're going to get kicked out forever and ever and ever until one of your fucking gods come back. But Infidel Noodle, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Oz. And just another thing on the comments. I don't understand how you think that you're helping your religion when you do that. You are literally proving my point for me. All I have to do is sit here and be live on a channel, and you come up in the comments and literally prove my point. Thank you so much. That helps me so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. So
it's so ironic. Like, how dumb are they to do?
Oh,
it makes me more confident in my position.
Me too. It makes me feel great. I love it. I think it's awesome.
Yeah. Hey, Infidel, I have a question for you. I've been waiting a while to ask you this. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm just curious. Since you speak out against Islam so openly and boldly, and thank you for doing so, I've learned a lot from you, by the way. Do you get any love from Christians?
Yes, I get a lot of interesting messages from Christians. Telling me how much God loves me and how much Jesus loves me and all sorts of interesting things. There's a particular preacher who messages me almost every single day. Sorry, hopefully that's not too loud. Telling me to embrace Christianity and that it's not too late. Thankfully, the difference between the messages I get from Christians and Muslims is that usually they just want to tell me how much Jesus loves me. Muslims, on the other hand, want to tell me how much I'm going to burn in hell and how they want to kill me and do all kinds of disgusting things to me. So that's the difference there. The Christians, they're still kind of annoying, but at least they're sweet about it. I mean, I don't really take an issue with that.
I thought they would love you for putting all that out there and confirming it. And they're like, look, she said it. So I thought you might. Thanks.
But Noodle, if you were speaking against Christianity, you would also get those Christians that say, "Oh, we're gonna go burn hell." Then, like I get death threats on a daily basis from morons on either side.
Yeah, they exist on either side. It just depends which particular religion you're speaking out against. I mean, I do openly say that I'm an atheist and that I don't like religion, that I don't believe in God, that I think God's an asshole and all kinds of stuff. But they conveniently ignore that because they want to use my argument to put forward their own agenda. So there's also that side of it too, which I definitely acknowledge. But at least someone is sending me nice messages. That's always a bonus, I guess.
I remember
To
when
the
I
original-
first started making videos, and of course, all my videos were kind of about Christianity because I'm an ex-Christian. So what am I making content about? And I would get like a lot of Muslims in my comments, like applauding my videos, and I'm like, so then of course,
Hold up, buddy, you're next.
yeah, hold up. I'm like, wait a minute, what is this? This is a new book. Let me read this one. And I read it twice. I had to read it twice because it's very difficult. If you guys, for those of you that haven't read it in English, it sucks. It's like reading the Old Testament in Old English. It makes no fucking sense. I have very little understanding of what's going on. It takes a lot of work to understand this alleged word of God. But then I start just asking basic questions, and I'm told that if you touch this book the wrong way, then I will immediately catch fire. My skin will melt off. I'll turn to a rat. I'll get hit by a car. Someone will shoot me. They'll show up at my house. And I'm like, of course, me being the satire asshole I am, I'm like, oh, really? Well, oops, here's a page ripped out. And the amount of backlash from that is like tenfold what I got from the Christian community. And yeah, I do get death threats from Christians, but it's the descriptive factor of ways that these people want to kill me is the imagination they have. They need to go work on a TV show or something. Like they have a very good imagination with this. So it's weird to me. It's very odd.
I shut down the conversation once.
Yeah.
Are there people leaving Islam in the way that they are leaving Christianity in the U.S.?
Yes, there are, but the thing is that the majority of ex-Muslims live in Muslim-majority countries where if they come forward and identify themselves as an apostate, they're going to be executed. And so that is the difference between ex-Muslims and ex-Christians at the moment. Ex-Muslims are facing an enormous human rights issue on a global scale. I mean, I live in the West and I still face a lot of that same backlash and a lot of that threat and danger. Just imagine what it's like for someone living in a place like Saudi Arabia or Iran or even Egypt nowadays as well.
One of the dumbest arguments I've heard from Muslims is when they'll say things like, this couldn't possibly have been written. It's like, have you read how garbage this is? Like, there's nothing miraculous about what's written here. It's just pure delusion.
Well, that and the fact that if the Christians do the same thing where it's like, well, it's a different context. The path where it goes with the Islamic, in my opinion, Noodle can tell me, is you're not reading the right Quran, excuse me. The one that you're reading is not translated properly. You need to learn Arabic. Only Arabic is going to be the way that you can understand it. And then you must dedicate your life to understanding Arabic to understand this word of God. And to me, if I can read a Dr. Seuss book in 20 minutes and get the full meaning of the Dr. Seuss book. That's written by, for children. Right. And you're telling me that the book that's for every human on this planet that is to be understood for salvation or I burn in hell requires a lifetime of study? Like, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. And why do I need to go to an Islamic scholar to be able to understand God's word? Why do I need a man or woman or whoever, another human being, to tell me what the word of God is? And also, did this God not realize that Arabic would be a language that less than 5% of people on the planet can understand in the future? Like, where's that prophecy?
But that's the thing. It's not just that it's written in Arabic. It's actually written in ancient Arabic. And so the Arabic that the Quran is written in, it doesn't even have dots in it, which means there's about 5 different letters that you can't differentiate between within that language. So even now, a fluent Arabic speaker, like if I need help with interpreting a verse, I speak to friends in Saudi Arabia, or I speak to, people who are native Arabic speakers. It's their first language. And I was shocked because they would tell me, like, no one really speaks that kind of Arabic properly. Like, I need to speak to all these different people so I can make sure I'm giving you the correct translation. So it's ridiculous because the majority of Muslims in the world, I think it's something like upwards of 90%, they don't speak Arabic. And so when people come forward with this argument of, no, you're not understanding it because you don't speak this particular language, they're writing off about 90% of their own believers as not being real Muslims. So it's completely illogical. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and real quick, because I had to take a phone call. I had to take a phone call. I don't know if you guys shouted out, but Mommy Foulmouth hit us with a super chat for $99.99. Thank you very much for your support. Yeah, it seems like the chat room got controlled now. So
they ran out of accounts.
So you fuck sticks.
Hold on, let me just.
Fuck
I
out.
just want to make sure that you see my new bookshelf, and I just need to go put my Quran away. Okay.
Stick it right on the bottom there, Jeff. Right.
I just had to put it on the
stack.
shelf. Nothing.
Yeah.
No disrespect.
I think you should put it on the floor and then put a bunch of books and underwear on top.
I don't even own or a Bible. I'm pretty sure I just chucked my last Bible in the fucking garbage years ago. I got tired of reading it. I don't need to go back to it anymore. That's what Google's for.
Yeah, you can get
then
it.
You can't rip Google.
Yeah, you can read it in an afternoon. It's really not a big book. You can't understand it in an afternoon.
You know what? I've been getting interested in this whole Sunni Shiite thing. What's up with that?
It's like Lutheran and Methodist.
So-
Yeah, but they're like murdering each other.
Yeah. So the Sunni Shia divide. The majority of Muslims will identify as Sunni Muslims. So that means that we basically follow the teachings of Muhammad. We think that he's this fantastic, great guy. One of the main differences between the groups is that Shias don't like Aisha. So Aisha is Muhammad's child bride, as most of us know by now, and they are of the assumption that she was evil, that she poisoned him. There's a hadith that talks about her following him as he's going off to sleep with one of his sex slaves, and so they believe that, you know, she had this contention for Muhammad and she's this horrible evil character. So I'll get messages from Shia Muslims quite often telling me, do you think that Aisha is a dirty bitch, and all very interesting, poetic, peaceful sort of stuff. So if you jump onto Twitter, you'll see things like people will have Sunni genocide in their Twitter bios and stuff. And so they are literally killing each other over this divide in belief about, you know, what happened back then and how you're supposed to practice Islam now. So most Sunnis will tell you that Shias aren't real Muslims. And then, of course, it will work the exact same way around. Both of them think they're right and both want to kill each other. So that's great.
So their main difference, or the thing that really divides them, is just whether or not this young bride killed Muhammad or poisoned Muhammad.
That's one of it. And then I think there's also there's an extra prophet in Shia Islam as well, or something. There's
Solomon.
Yes, yeah. And so there's an additional prophet. They don't think that Muhammad was the final one, and they hate
the one that
Aisha.
talked to ants?
Yes, Solomon is the one that, from what I understand, the ants spoke, and then its vocal vibrations were carried on the wind for 3 miles.
Wait,
Right?
what?
Yes.
Hold on,
Yes.
I know that chapter.
I love when they say this, like, there's no scientific errors in the Quran. By the way, ants can speak and you can hear them from miles away.
That's a miracle, though, because he was a prophet.
Right.
Oh my God!
Basically negating any science in the world.
Sure.
Also, the sun sets
equation
at night.
The equation of any religion and science is probably one of the more infuriating arguments. You know, I can deal with the moral argument. I can tolerate that. I can put up with it. So handsome. But when it comes to Christians and Muslims trying to cross over science, my patience starts to wear really thin. I cannot stand that argument.
Yeah, it's completely delusional. And yeah, of course you can be a scientist and be religious, but the two frameworks are in direct contradiction. They're doing the opposite thing. I engage with this moron on TikTok on a regular basis who literally thinks that without religion, like you wouldn't have any science, any art, any meaning, nothing. Like he's that sort of dogmatic in his mindset that he just can't wrap his head around existence outside of his framework. It's just garbage.
There's a lot of ways that, like, one of the videos I came after recently was a guy who was going after that chariot wheel at the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea. And I'm like, they have to at some point willfully choose to ignore shit, right? When that kid Googled that nonsense. You know damn well he came across articles that refuted the whole fucking thing and still did not read them. Completely fucking ignored those articles.
I mean, there's only one argument for it. There's only one website that ever talks about it. There's only one source for it, 100 sources against it.
And when you show them the resources against it, they'll just say, good luck on Judgment Day. Like, that's the only thing they have to say.
Yeah.
Like,
It always goes, you'll find out when you die. I have only ever received one death threat, and I answered it on my TikTok video with this.
Right.
And you know how much hate I got for that? Like,
Oz, you got something to say?
He literally used his God in a comment. He threatened to come and he wants to come and kill me in the name of his God. And my response was, it ain't gonna be easy. I mean, you can try.
I love that.
And I got a lot of hate for that. Like, well, what do you expect?
I'm gonna defend myself. Like, yeah.
Real quick, Gay Jesus, the King of Queens, self-proclaimed on there.
King of Queens. I didn't realize my name was going to be so long.
Yeah, you can see it. It's
glad
right there.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
So,
what is this to say? Thank you for having me. I'm gonna hop out because my computer sucks, and all I hear is sounds like everyone's having like some kind of weird underwater battle, which is pretty rad. Thank you for having me. If you don't know me, follow me on TikTok, Jagazus. I'm going to have more and more atheist content coming out. Right now, we're still kind of riding the line between Christian and atheist. There's a lot of people who won't follow me for that reason because I do a lot of Christianity talks, and that's purposeful. It's to try to, unveil some things. But yeah, it's a good time. I respect all beliefs, even if you're still a theist. We love you. And thank you for having me.
Oh, see, that's where we're different.
So good.
And I usually look better. I promise. My hair is usually much better.
Yeah, I'm still working on my hair. So.
You don't.
I, on the other hand, respect no religious beliefs whatsoever.
So anyway, Sam DoLittle dropped $2. Oz prays for cheddar bacon panties. You know what? If
I bet you they have.
I'm not even gonna lie. If somebody presented me with cheddar bacon panties and all I had to do was pay $2 for it, I'm fucking in, bro.
I'll tell you what. I bet I know how we can sweeten that deal. Substitute the cheddar with cream cheese.
I would do that too for $2. Absolutely.
Hey, Shed, Murdershed, you ever been to Australia?
According to my VPN,
let me ask you this: do you know what they call McDonald's in Australia?
No.
We call it Macca's.
They actually changed their name in Australia.
I did see that McDonald's commercial, which I found pretty hilarious. The band
asked me about Macca's from Australia. What the hell are you talking about? Like, what is this? Is this a restaurant? Is it a place?
Well, we're very laid back here, so we shorten the names of everything. Like we have a grocery store called Woolworths, so we just call it Woolies. It's easier. We don't have time for that shit. It's just.
I'm gonna start calling it. That's my thing now. When I go to, I don't go to McDonald's that frequently because McDonald's outside of the U.S. is much better than McDonald's inside the U.S., which is weird considering a U.S. company.
Hold on, real quick in the chat. I want to address. Hey, Ethan, I promised I'll let you ask. I just want to hit this in the chat real quick, just so we can
go for it.
Get this shit out of the way. So, Infidel Noodle, I'm gonna pull this up on the screen. If you would ask the question, I'll answer it. How about that?
Why don't y'all have any Muslim on the panel?
Because tonight was an original conversation, an atheist roundtable panel discussion on morality. Then we went into TikTok atheism. So we have all atheists on the screen right now. Now, if you would like to be part of a debate or a roundtable conversation or discussion about your religion, we would love to have you. You can email me, austin@tart.live, and we'll hook it up. We have no issues with that. That being said, which everybody knows for whatever reason, my favorite go-to sentence. Ethan, go ahead and ask whatever you're going to ask.
Okay, so you left the Islam religion. How has things changed for you? Like, there's a lot to it, right? A lot to unpack, I imagine. Leaving any religion is going to be difficult, but like, I know that there's a lot of purity culture and a lot of other stuff. How has that impacted? Like, have you struggled to kind of step away from the purity culture and all that other stuff that is involved with the Muslim religion?
Yeah, so the thing about, I guess, deconverting and that whole process of addressing, years worth of childhood indoctrination is the fact that you're constantly needing to make a conscious effort to rewrite those neural pathways in your brain that have been ingrained into you from birth. It's definitely incredibly difficult, and a lot of people will go through things like an identity crisis. I think for me, Ethan, because from a very young age, I've been pushing back against that purity culture, against that concept of modesty, against the idea that women are supposed to be these creatures that you hide away from the world, and that men are these hypersexualized beings who basically can't control themselves, because that is what Islam teaches. And from a very young age, I've been challenging that. And so I think it made it easier for me when I did, I guess, officially leave the religion to put that part of my life behind me, because I'd already been fighting it for so long. It wasn't something that had this hold over me that I was stuck in and couldn't see past and that I believed in. That wasn't me. That was never me. So, but I know for other people that it is certainly much harder, because there are a lot of women who grow up believing that that is the way of life and that is correct. And so rewiring your brain to challenge that way of thinking is definitely harder for others than it was for me, especially because I grew up in the West, obviously.
Oh, there you go. I mean, yeah, I think that it's very similar from a Christian perspective as well. One of the things I've noticed on TikTok, aside from ex-Christians and ex-Muslims, we also have a lot of ex-Mormons and a few ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. And those two, the Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses, they are very cultish with their purity culture and the like. And you see a lot of them kind of discuss how they got away from that brainwashing, how they had to rewire their own behaviors. I think that's a testament to it, like human endurance, like what you can achieve in your own life, having been brainwashed into a certain set of a certain worldview, I suppose.
I have a event in March, Sam, and then I'll let you talk. Or do you want to go first?
Oh, you got an event. Talk about it.
I got an event on the 21st in March. And Pasta's coming, and we're going to shoot a video and do all this stuff. And I was driving to work the other day, and I'm thinking about this event, and we can do some video here, and we can do this, and this, and then like I had that thing set in. So the event organizer is Christian. One of my guys that goes out there and does a lot of the stuff is a Jehovah's Witness. Some of the other people are also business owners. We can't openly shoot video there as the Atheist Roundtable. We can't openly have discussions with these people about these topics without fear of backlash, or possibly these people that own these businesses being involved with us because, it's a bad word. On the other side, though, if we were the Christian Roundtable and we showed up to this event and wanted to shoot video, we'd probably be welcomed with open arms. We could distribute the content worldwide. We'd have fear of no backlash. And it was kind of a sombering moment to think about, what restrictions there are still on us as far as making content and just being open with what we believe.
Yeah, I think that point that's an important point.
Steve can't talk about it at work. I know that for damn well.
Well, I mean, that's an important point, right? Like you brought that up. That's how I think weak religion is. It's so weak that it has to create this bubble that it exists in. And anything that might pop that bubble is an enemy, period, end of story.
And if you pop the bubble, if you ask a question and pop the bubble, you're an asshole.
Yeah. And I think that speaks to its delicacy, how delicate religion is. And I think that even Infidel Noodle would know that. I mean, That's a big one within the Islam religion. Like, they're very overprotective of their faith.
Yeah.
Speaking of popping religious bubbles, what I was going to say is I got something in the mail today telling me about Jehovah's Witness. It was like, we're so sorry we can't come to your door because of these unfortunate circumstances. I'm like, I wish you could, because like 8 months ago, I decided to finally give in to my doubts and start learning all this stuff. And now I want the Jehovah's Witnesses to come to my door so I can talk to them and just fucking go at it. But no, they got to put something in the mailbox because of COVID.
Write them back.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I could write them back. Yeah.
Write them back and make a series about it. I would love, because I'll do it too. I've gotten 2 letters from 2 different ones recently. And my buddy that is a Jehovah's Witness and does all the work on my car, like, he's a great guy, does great work. And he asked me about a webcam, because he knows I do a web show, but he doesn't know what it's about. And I was giving him advice on, which webcam to buy. And I was like, what's the webcam for? And he's like, oh, for Jehovah's Witness stuff, we're doing video chats now instead of door to door. And I have to kind of like bite my tongue.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I wouldn't be able to.
Give him a shitty.
Yeah, I'm not biting my tongue on that one.
I hear
yeah,
the
I need my car fixed. So,
well, you can have you can have a genuine conversation with somebody without it divulging into name calling and bullshit and nonsense. I think all of us here have gotten pretty good at that at this point. So, I mean, start there. Just try to have a friendly conversation. If it gets too far, shut it down.
Car stuff.
Right. Here's one. Here's a conversation for topic. And Infidel, I'd love your perspective on this one. I just recently had a 13-year-old comment on one of my videos telling me she is absolutely terrified to come out as gay to her Christian parents. And I told her, under no circumstances should you do so. You are not required to do so. And by all means, until you can live an independent life on your own with nobody else's assistance, then you should absolutely remain closeted. And it broke my fucking heart to have to say that. Thoughts?
Yeah, I get so many messages with, the same kind of queries. I'm gay, or I've left the faith, and how do I come out to my family? I want to tell them who I am, and I want to be my true self. How do I do it? And more often, every single time, the one piece of advice that I have to give them is you need to put your safety first. And unfortunately, what that actually looks like in reality is living a double life and not coming out to your parents, because if you still live at home and you're financially reliant on your parents, and there is a risk that they are going to cut you off or abuse you or kick you out, just for being who you are, you can't tell them. And it's even harder if they're actually living in a Muslim country, because then not only can their parents kick them out, but their government can execute them legally. So it's very hard for them to find people within their own, their own country and their own community who they can even speak to. So my thoughts on that, and my advice for those sorts of people would be, unfortunately, it might mean that you can't come out to your family, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't look for a community somewhere else. And that might be online, because that social connection is so important. And so you do need to have that in your life, but it doesn't necessarily need to be coming from your parents.
How about what do we think about witchcraft and Wiccan and pagan religions that have resurfaced? I think a lot of people have been leaving Christianity in the U.S. and swapping out for these pseudo religions that existed at some point in time. My personal opinion is it's bullshit. You're not a fucking pagan. You're not sacrificing human beings to the gods. You're not a fucking pagan. You're not a witch. You're not astral projecting your ass across the planet. Shut up.
The only thing I like about that, because of course it's nonsense, but it's how badly it pisses off the Christians. I find it endlessly amusing.
That's true.
You're not allowed to have a Harry Potter book, nonetheless. Have you seen that meme, though, that it has like the mom, and it's like, you're not allowed to watch Harry Potter because they have potions. And then at the same time, it's like, here, you need some essential oils with mint. It's the same fucking shit.
So I actually have I have an opinion on this.
Oh yeah.
So what I know, Murdershed Steve has an opinion.
Yeah, but we've talked about this before.
So I find that when a lot of people, as they're deconverting, and a part of the deconversion process from religions that are more dogmatic, like Christianity, or that haven't been totally rejected yet, as into mythology, right? When people start moving and shifting into those kind of pseudoscience or spirituality religions and things like that, they start shifting in those directions. It's usually because they're deconverting from religion altogether, and the next step is going to be atheism, almost 100% of the time. And we're seeing a lot of people leaving these dogmatic beliefs, whether they be continuing to go to church and pretending to believe, or they're starting to realize that, it all kind of seems crazy. So why don't I just pick the one that I like the best because they all sound like nonsense, things like that. Well, as you're moving away from that, typically to ease or cushion that landing, you end up in some of these other kind of auxiliary religions that are still around for some reason, or these kind of more spiritualistic beliefs, things like that. So I think that we're actually just seeing a lot more people deconverting. And that's where the emergence of these things are coming from. And they're creating bigger communities that are getting more notice because there's just more of them than you typically would have seen 10, 15, 20 years ago when the deconversion rate wasn't so fast.
The misuse of the term energy by the New Age community is enraging.
Oh my God.
I was told that you're not allowed to take showers because it washes off the radiation from the sun after you do sun gazing.
What's that one where they stick their butt in the air and let the sun
Yes,
their asshole
you got to stun your taint.
Okay, infidel, do you have crazy deconverts in your former religion that do this kind of crazy shit? They just make up random stupidity and run with it? Because we have a group of people in California who will open their butt cheeks to the sunlight to bleach their asshole.
By the way, it gives you cancer almost definitely.
You mean as in ex-Muslims or as in people that are still Muslims?
Yeah, they decided to make up some other goofy shit to fucking just believe in.
Do you know, the funny thing is, the majority, I'd say the vast majority actually, upwards of 95% of ex-Muslims that I know all end up being atheists. Some of them go through a phase of agnosticism, or, they might remain in that sort of agnostic phase, but the vast majority, they left because they don't believe in the concept of a God or a creator, because ultimately that's the one thing that's going to push you out of Islam. Like, that is the crossroads for a lot of us. So no, I don't see a lot of that. Some of them go to Christianity though.
Would that be like a result of like just social pressures? Like you just go from one to the other? Because I don't know what it is with Americans, but when they deconvert from Christianity, it's a laundry list of shit they go through. It's like the 7 stages of grief. It's crazy. They really do. They will make up shit just to believe in something.
Is it a coping mechanism?
Yeah, I think it could be.
Great. There's tons of great examples of this on Neil's show.
Oh yeah,
Neil is 604 Atheist. Yeah, just watch some of his shows, and everybody seems to go through some sort of, Neil himself went through like a paganism and Wiccan and stuff like that.
I mean, there is a mental thing that happens when you leave that you try to fill that gap.
You're hanging on to certain pieces, like the soul.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think there's something to that ex-Muslim leaving thing, because it's more, I don't want to say it's more serious, but I think they take religion more serious. And Christians don't take religion that serious in many cases, the vast majority. So flipping from one magic trick to another magic trick isn't dealing with the fact that it's a magic trick. Whereas when an ex-Muslim realizes the person behind the curtain, the magic trick no longer works. So be it Christianity, Muslim, freaking spiritualist, or whatever the hell they want to call it, it doesn't work.
Oz is giving me shit. He just put pagan on my name.
But I know people that worship Thor, like the god Thor, and maybe there's some sort of Christian privilege to that.
My biological sisters are both Norse pagan. right? So like my brother is agnostic. I'm the atheist. My dad is, I'm pretty sure he's pretty Christian. My mom is ancient aliens levels of fucking crazy.
Yeah.
I don't really have any bones to pick with paganism in and of itself, or even witchcraft or those beliefs. I think they're nonsense. I think they're unnecessary, but I don't have a bone to pick with them because they're not trying to regulate
laws.
They're not trying to, you know, they're not hating gay people or, you know, trying to strip rights from women. I can honestly give a shit less what people think in that regard. Again, I think it's unnecessary. I think that their energy would be better spent on being humanists than being Norse pagan or, you know, inventing something to believe in. But that's their choice.
Didn't they all invent something to believe in?
Look, the way I see it, I came to humanism from a long kind of like thought process. It wasn't something I jumped into head first. The idea that we can all make the right decision for the right reasons that benefit everybody, that's a physical possibility. That is something that can be done. It doesn't take a miracle. It doesn't take anything other than us. And that to me is more powerful than much of anything else. And I love that part of it. Solve human problems using purely rational means of thinking, do not appeal to the supernatural. And we can, the universe is the limit to what we can achieve.
Yeah. You know, I think a lot of people have problems, leaving their belief is because of Journey.
The music?
Yes.
Don't Stop Believing?
You got it.
Hey, well, this Scientologist over here apparently doesn't know how to charge his batteries with energy.
I prefer John Lennon.
No, I'm talking about this guy. The Scientologist.
Cease's batteries are ceasing to work.
His batteries are ceasing to know.
So the Scientologist, does not understand how to operate operate a charger.
I need new headphones because I had these charged for a while and they're already dying. So, but,
I actually had a pair of those and I hated them. I bought some Sonys that were better.
Thank you for having me on, guys.
See, I'm really glad you came on tonight. Before you go, tell us a little about Axioms on Trial and where they can find you guys.
Yes, so YouTube, we do a podcast a couple times a week, Axioms on Trial. It's me and Jesus Mike from TikTok, JMike. We go over, we talk about all religions, Islam, Christianity, other ones. We've talked to science professors and educators, anybody, scholars or people from TikTok or YouTube, anybody that wants to debate or converse, we're happy to have on and engage in these conversations. We break down a lot of different philosophical arguments, whether it's in the context of religion or otherwise, where it's existentialism, etc. So we really dig deep and I don't know, it's been a lot of fun for me. So I think we have a show tomorrow. So just stay tuned and thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It's always good to talk to you guys.
Glitch.
Yeah,
God damn it! I fucking muted myself. God damn it. But no, good to have you on as usual, and looking dapper tonight. Looking dapper.
Thanks, everyone.
Yep. Thanks for coming on.
You rock too.
So what I'll do is I'll make the last call here. Last call. If you have Q's and you need A's for your Q's, now's the time to ask your Q's. So ask your questions. We're going to go into Q&A here, and then we'll wrap it up. We've had a longer stream than we normally do here at TART, but we've had some great guests tonight, great conversations. So I'll let you guys keep chatting here for a minute while we get some questions here in the comment section. So go ahead and wrap. Oh, you're so quiet.
What haven't I covered that pisses me off about religion? Fucking everything.
Money, taxes.
Oh, no. Here's one. This one lit me up the other day. I actually made a TikTok video about it. There was a woman who made a TikTok video about submitting to her fucking husband, even if she didn't want to. The fact that she's required to give in to her husband, even if she's not. And
she's making the video?
She made the video. I would pull it up, but I really don't want to fucking look at it right now. And I made a video response to that, say that this is the reason I consider religion to be a mental illness. When you give up everything that you are to a system of ideology or thought, that I realize there's a lot of pushback in the atheist community to not call religion a mental illness, but this stuff is way too deep. You cannot tell me that that's not a mental illness of some kind, where you're giving up everything for religion to that degree.
No, if I could just jump in and say that it's not a mental illness in and of itself. It can be impacted by mental health diagnoses, but it in and of itself is not a mental health diagnosis, and that's why you or anybody that tries to take that position will get pushback, whether it's from professionals that have a degree in that or people that spend time studying it, to the 10th degree, like I do, because I have a rap sheet of mental health diagnosis. When people say that, it actually aggravates me for the theist, and I'm not even a theist anymore, because it's like, no, it's not a mental health thing. But yeah, there's so many things that mental health can play a part in somebody making a decision to do something, but that something in and of itself is not a mental health diagnosis.
Right. The belief in the religion wouldn't be the mental health, but what about like the level of devotion a given person gives that religious belief?
Has nothing to do with mental health. Now, again, if somebody has, let's say, like I at the top of my list is anxiety. There might be somebody that struggles with a lot of anxiety, and they need kind of that. And I'm not being a smartass right now. If there's any Christians listening, I'm not. I'm just trying to keep it as simple as I can. They need kind of that comfort or that safety blanket to make them feel like that anxiety. Like they don't have to be anxious. When the Bible even says it, don't be anxious. Cast all your cares on me. God said. It kind of gives them that comfort, that warm and fuzzy feeling, and they don't actually have to deal with the feelings of the mental health issue or diagnosis. So again, even in that, it's not the diagnosis. It's the I'm having trouble trying to explain, but well, it's a what's the word I want? It'll come to me in a second. But it's more so. I can't. It's on the tip of my tongue. Symptoms probably, without the word I want to say, is probably close to what I'm trying to say. It's they're related, but it is not the diagnosis. Like you're not going to go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist and they're going to say, "Oh, you believe in a God or you believe in a supreme being. Here's your diagnosis." That's not what's going to happen.
Right.
Well, why don't we ask in this area
that believing in the religion would necessarily be a diagnosis. I think that maybe some of the side effects, some of the consequences of those beliefs could be. So a woman said,
I saw your comment.
I must submit myself to my husband because the Bible says so. I have no authority over my own body. To that degree, that might be a side effect of a religious belief that comes off as a mental illness, kind of, you know what I mean? Like, if a woman says that, she's really giving up herself. She's giving up everything that she is. And that seems very unhealthy to me.
Well, so Infidel Noodle, I know you have some insight on this particular subject. So when you hear anyone bring up mental health or any diagnosis as it relates to a God belief, what's your insight on that?
If we're going to strip it back purely to a clinical standpoint on this issue, then I think we need to acknowledge that the way we actually diagnose and categorize mental illness is using a very strict set of diagnostic criteria, which would be drawing from either the ICD-10 or the DSM-5. That's how we diagnose and classify something as an actual mental illness. And the reason we have that is because when we can approach mental illness using a set of very clear criteria, then we can treat it in accordance with that. So from a clinical standpoint, I think it's just important to make that distinction. In terms of religion, religion is not in the ICD-10, religion is not in the DSM-5 as a mental illness. However, I do think there can be a correlation between someone struggling with their mental health and a very strong belief in a dogmatic way of thinking like religion. So there certainly is a potential for some correlation to be existing there. And there's also the fact that religion plays a part in mental health in the sense that if your religion sees things like suicide as a sin, that can actually work as a protective factor for you, and that can actually have a positive impact on your mental health. So it works in a lot of different ways. But I don't think that as a mental health professional, I would ever make a claim in saying that religion is a mental illness.
Oh, I understand. Yeah. I mean, I don't know a lot about psychology, so I will leave that to the experts. It's probably my own logical fallacy anyway. I can't possibly understand how a person could be that way, so therefore I'm trying to find answers, and they're probably incorrect.
All right. So we're gonna, and this time I'm not making fun of anybody. I just can't
Making
talk.
fun of yourself, right?
I love making fun of myself. I'm all good.
All right,
Self-deprecation, I think, is the greatest form of humor. But we're getting ready to go to Q&A, is what I was trying to say originally. Ethan, this is probably the most important question of the evening.
Oh,
maybe
God.
maybe of your lifetime. I don't know.
You're putting me on the spot here, dude. What's up?
So there's this guy that we know, and there's a play. Well, have you ever seen the inside of a murder shed before?
Only once, but there was a lot of soft petting and cuddles.
Hold on. Normally I cut. Normally I cut right there, straight to it. But now I need to know a little more.
No, I have not.
Was that in Jeff's bed that night?
Murder Steve Shed. Unfortunately, I would love to sometime.
What was it? Was it cuddles with Murdershed and TJump at the same time, or what happened?
Nah, TJ, he gave me the cold shoulder.
That sounds about right.
Well, how's it going, everybody? So normally I do a joke or a quip, but I really wanted to actually touch a little bit on my visit down to Georgia. Had a great time meeting everybody. But there's one thing that I don't think anybody really knew, is that I had actually already been there for about 2 months before everybody else showed up. Yes, I've been living in Jeff's attic, spying through my little sneaky peeky hole, watching him sleep at night. Jeff, how you doing? You sleeping okay? I'm back at the murder shed, Jeff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was just trying to find the holes.
I was actually using a green screen of the murder shed in your attic for the past 2 months, but
I
I'm back
know
now.
I've been doing something up there.
Yeah. Yeah, all those bumps in the night.
And my air conditioning has just like not been working properly. So I don't know what you've been doing up there, fucking moving shit or
well,
leaving
have you
bags.
noticed any kind of like weird smells or anything? Because I have been drying my feet off with your furnace fan.
That's what that is.
Yeah.
That
I
explains
was
the
about to
funk.
say, it looked like you were taking a shit up there in the video.
I've got a question here from Pastor John. Now, it's not a super chat, but luckily we're desperate. We're just absolutely desperate for questions. This is for Noodle. Thoughts on David Wood, both before deconversion and after deconversion?
I'm guessing, just to confirm, Pastor John, you're talking about as in when I was a Muslim versus how I am now, right? Is that what you mean?
I think he's
Unless
he talking about a specific person, it doesn't really matter.
It's Pastor John. Should we just move on?
We should really just not play make believe with grown adults.
Yeah. Like, let them
Christian
pretend that
mythology.
Easter bunnies and gods and stuff exist.
I'm
I got a
just curious
question.
who you're talking about. Like, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, so Gordon Wood.
David Wood.
Gordon Wood. I bet you read a lot of that Gordon Wood.
He's a Christian apologist.
David Wood. I didn't know who David Wood was until
Why would you know?
I know. I don't read into Christianity. I was a Muslim, not a Christian.
You don't study Christian apologetics?
Oh,
Crazy. Every atheist is supposed to know every apologist and every anti.
That's what I have you guys for.
Okay. And that's what I have you for, is Islamic stuff.
Exactly.
According to comments, we're supposed to know all of the apologetics for all their religions. Is it ironic? I have yet to run into a Jewish apologist.
They don't care.
Yeah.
Because Judaism, in many cases, and I can only back this up so much, but it seems to me, I'll say it that way, that the majority of Jews are atheists.
Yeah, they don't believe in an afterlife. They're actually, I think, more like deists, to be honest. They believe in a God, but the gods, by and large, has nothing to do with human affairs.
But we have credits rolling now.
I've got a question from Samuel DoLittle for Jeff. Excuse me, Jeff. Let me read the question.
Okay.
Thank you. Have you ever gently caressed the
Speed it up. I get paid by the
sleeve of
hour.
the Quran? If so, what happened?
I have ripped pages, and I was told that ripping the pages was not sufficient because it wasn't a real Quran. It needed to be an Islamic Quran. So I spent $55 on a nice, very high-end Arabic Quran from the Middle East that was mailed to me, which I then sawed in half with a handsaw. Nothing happened. I burned the pages out of it. Nothing happened.
And it's because you bought the wrong.
I was told that if I kicked the book, I would turn into a rat. So I've kicked the book. I've sauteed pages of the book. Nothing happens. The book is just like any other book. It's not special. Whatever anybody told you, put it to the test. Go ahead, rip a page.
And what number account are you on, Jeff?
Number 5.
Okay.
I keep resurrecting.
You know what? I am still on number 1. I've been on the same account since I started 3 years ago.
It's pretty good.
I do get video taken down. My live is permanently banned. I think I might have accidentally showed a pair of butt cheeks once.
Accidentally, he says.
You show a TV, they'll cut you off.
Showed my butt cheeks, and I haven't had my live since then. I think that was back in 2018. But yeah, all I do is call people stupid. If you're tearing apart Bible, you're going to get a hell of a lot more shit than I'm going to get.
Someone in my live just said, "Bro, that's not true. You won't turn to anything, but it's disrespectful and an extreme punishment later." You know what's really disrespectful? Reading the Quran. The words that are in the Quran are disrespectful. Threatening my life is disrespectful. Threatening other people's lives are disrespectful. Writing a book that says that slavery is okay and women should be submissive, that's disrespectful. Don't get all fucking uppity because I ripped a page out of a piece of property that I own when that piece of property calls for my death.
I mean, if you can beat your slave and your wife because they're property, why can't we beat a book because
you
it's
can do
property?
a lot worse to a wife, allegedly. You can own multiple wives. You can have concubines that are just basically sex slaves.
They're not even part of their lives.
The
So
definition of marriage throughout most of religion is pretty fucking weird.
it's fucked up. It's really fucked up. And so what's interesting is, and Noodle, you'll like this. I have a friend. My girlfriend has a coworker, and she's dating this guy, and he's a Muslim, and she knows nothing about religion. Like, she knows nothing about religion, but she's desperate for a companion for Valentine's Day, and she is like seriously considering converting to Islam for this person. And I'm like, I don't think she knows anything about Islam whatsoever, because she's a very independent woman, which is not going to end up well in any situation. I just thought it was funny.
Yeah, that's a future ex-Muslim right there.
Yeah, that's
for sure. I've got a question from Wittershins. Noodles, do you get to explore all the different haram foods? I'm contractually obligated to mispronounce at least one word during the broadcast. Haram foods when you deconverted. Do you love it or hate it?
Yes, I did try lots of haram food after I left the religion. It actually took me many, many years. I only tried pork for the very first time last year, and it made me feel really sick because my brain is programmed to believe that pork is this dirty, disgusting meat, and I just can't read.
It is kind of fattening.
Yeah, it's really fatty. It's not that nice. I try not to eat too much meat anyway. But no, you can't eat meat as a Muslim unless it's halal, which means that the animal has been slaughtered by cutting an artery in the neck, and the blood has to drain out. And you also need to pray for the animal when they're dying. So as a kid, I had to watch that happening. Actually, it was really traumatizing and disgusting. But anyway, so I've eaten non-halal meat that have been slaughtered in a normal way, I guess, and it tastes the same. And yeah, I love haram food. It's fucking amazing.
What other foods are haram?
Come to the U.S. We have better tacos.
Is Vegemite haram?
Pork is haram unless the meat is been slaughtered in a halal way. Then that's haram. You can't eat meat that hasn't been slaughtered with the praying, with the slitting of the neck. So even like certain sweets, because they have gelatin in them, we couldn't eat that because we couldn't confirm that animal had been slaughtered correctly. So yeah, there wasn't a lot of food there was, but there was a lot of restrictions on what I could eat as a Muslim.
And alcohol?
Yeah, alcohol's haram. You can't eat alcohol. You also can't eat animals that eat other animals. You can eat everything from the sea, but like I couldn't eat like a lion because they eat other animals.
Little known fact.
From Judaism.
There are 45 people in the live chat, not a single question's coming through. This is
46.
Not a single Jeffrey Troll will shut the F up. So, little known question. No, little known fact, okay? And this may turn you off of some haram foods. Pork actually tastes almost exactly like human meat.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
I've heard that. DNA is quite similar, isn't it?
That and we both just eat whatever we come across, That kind of diet gives you a certain kind of flavor.
So here's the question.
It's like mixing all the fast foods all in one burger.
They use pig heart pieces for people in heart surgeries that have a valve break. So you lose a valve. They go through. I know this because one of my friends that's a doctor just had this surgery done, and they take a piece of a heart from a pig because it's so genetically similar, and they put that in there. Is that a surgery that would not happen in an Islamic country because they don't, or is that part of consumption of pig? Like what is that?
It depends who you ask, but I can tell you probably the vast majority of Muslims are going to be really disgusted by that and not want any part of a pig's body inside of them. Actually, there's I have to show you guys, there's this famous Muslim preacher called Zakir Naik, and he's got this talk about pigs where he says, if you eat pig, you behave like pig, and talks about how pigs sleep with other pigs' partners and how in the West we act like pigs because we do that, apparently. It's hilarious. I have to link it to you.
So he's unaware of any other animal behavior.
But you can have 4 wives and concubines.
Yeah.
I legit grew up on a pig farm raising pigs. It's not that fucking bad. It's a lot of work, but they're actually fairly intelligent animals.
And you'll get used to the smell pretty quick.
Yeah.
Notes from Autumn has a question. What is a good recipe for infidel noodles? She's been craving them.
Anything that has to consist purely of haram ingredients. So I would recommend a pasta with lots of wine in it, and you might want to throw in some delicious pepperoni and pig salami. Highly recommend.
You could take that pepperoni off of an atheist pizza. Just make sure it's a nice secular meal.
Turkey pepperoni, because I am allergic to pork.
It sucks for me to be a part of this community and not be able to travel. I can't come and hang out with you fuckers. Somebody give me a goddamn kidney already so I can travel and hang out with you fuckers.
Oh, maybe we gotta come to you.
And haram pasta.
Hey, Ethan, maybe we'll come to you next year. We'll set up a debate with TJump with the Texas atheists or something.
Where are you at, Ethan?
I'm not in Texas anymore. I moved.
Oh,
yeah, you're in Cali, right?
No, I'm in Arizona.
Oh, that's hot as shit. I'm not going there.
Arizona atheists. Well, that is all the questions that I have.
Actually, it's only hot 3 months of the year. And when I say hot, and I haven't lived through it yet, but it's coming up here in the next few months. When I say hot, I'm saying like 120 degrees for 3 months. The rest of the year.
That's Fahrenheit, noodle.
It's literally in the 80s and 90s.
That's American. 120 American units.
I'm American.
American degrees.
American degrees.
Can I answer a question? Sorry, there's just a comment. I never said that pork is haram unless it's slaughtered in the right way. I said that pork is always haram. I don't know what you're talking about. Sorry, I just needed to correct that because someone has left their brain cells at the door before they entered the chat.
Well, yeah, they did that with their name to begin with. That's all the questions that I have for today. Thanks for stopping by the Murdershed, where answers get questioned.
Yo. Why does Jeff look like he took like 2/8 of shrooms and is like
2/8
right now?
Someone was asking me if I had put my shelves up, and they're currently in progress. The room is coming around. I got artwork, lights, shelving for my books that I don't read.
He said lights and his fan lights are on. That's awesome.
So me and my roommate, we got the apartment we were looking at. It's kind of like I don't know, it was like a duplex or what the fuck it's called. But we got it. We got approved. We found out today, and so we're moving into that in March. And like I mentioned earlier, Murdershed Steve, if you want to help me kind of put some, I'm gonna put like there's gonna be an area in my room that's gonna be for online social media stuff. And I might call on you for your assistance in setting some of this shit up.
Yeah, by all means, Ethan, hit Steve up, and anything TART can offer as far as advice or anything. Just like we're doing the stream on the 20th, that's completely just promoting new content creators on YouTube. So we're all about helping people to have a voice in the atheist community, because the more people that are fucking talking about it, the more we get to normalize atheism. It's not a competition. It's not a goddamn competition. And I hate that. It's not a fucking competition. It's about normalizing what we're talking about and making a difference. So what I will say is, and normally what it is, but I feel like I need to. Pastor John, I see you in the chat, and you and I have talked several times in the last few days. And this whole woman bowing down and man gets the last say, bro, like you don't understand that you're living like centuries in the past. Like it's 2021, bro. It's 2021. And women do have a voice, and women do get to make decisions, and women they have every single opportunity to be influential. And I'm actually rather disappointed in what I've read here so far. But
that's coming on this week.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I didn't want to.
Well,
I was going to do it.
And I'm doing it because I know, I'm not saying nobody else would have, but I understand, being a former Christian for many years. I understand why he's saying what he's saying. It doesn't make it right, but I understand why he's saying what he's saying. But the whole, like, the man gets the last say, if that does not ooze with superiority. Superior,
fragile complex that requires constant what is it?
That's what the Bible says, though, right? Right.
Well, yes,
yeah,
but I don't listen to a book made by sheep herders from the frickin' Bronze Age.
Yep. Well, and he just commented, never said they didn't. But Pastor John, it's right above that. It says, literally, I'm reading it. You said, cease. Sorry, just caught your question. The man gets the final word on matters that cannot be resolved. So that means you get the last say because you got a penis. That's bullshit. That's bullshit, bro.
All the time, religion breeds ignorance.
The Goat Herder's Guide to the Galaxy said so.
Yep.
So again, and guess what? I'm not. Pastor John said hi, Alice. Hi, Pastor John.
Can we stop talking about Pastor John and talk about my debate tomorrow?
Well, hold on. I'm wrapping up right now. I'm wrapping up on this, and that way everybody.
Hey, let's make sure too that Noodle takes us out so she gets the last word.
Oh no, that's what I was going to do. I was going to go. I was going to do the back.
Okay.
So that way she could, all of us will do the alley oop, and then guess who gets the last word? Not a single man gets the last word. So, yeah, that's all that was bullshit. But I'll say this. We'll just go in order. I'll pretend like I'm just playing a guest tonight. So, just Jeff, you got a little something tomorrow night. Tell us about it.
Yeah, we got a debate tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern, with Michael the Elect. Is the Bible God, or the God of the Bible, just? So check it out. I know everybody says I can't debate. Also, if you want a debate, I've had several people make specific videos calling me out about slavery. I will happily any day take the slavery isn't good in a debate any day. So if you want to take the slavery is good side, sure, come on. We'll put you on TV and let you tell us why slavery is good.
Come on, man. That's low hanging fruit.
I know it's easy. Like, if you want to, like, I can just show up and say slavery bad.
Yeah. You should be able to.
I want us to put together an atheist fundraiser and bring Infidel Noodle to the U.S. so she can experience tacos.
Hey, we have tacos here. We eat Mexican food.
Yeah, but we're closer to Mexico.
You're in a land that doesn't exist to me. I don't think Australia is real.
And you can bring some macas.
Whatever.
All right, so yes, tomorrow night we have Jeff's debate. It's going to be fucking awesome. I'm looking forward to it. And then on the 20th, we have the new YouTube atheist content creator stream going on, and there's gonna be a ton of new creators on there. If you want to be part of it, tonight is the cutoff. Technically, I said midnight, but since we're still live, if you just started creating content, email me, austin@tart.live. We'll get you included. And it's all about promoting you and what you're doing and what you're trying to do. Since it's my time, because it's a very, very short answer to this. After my rant, Pastor John said, question for Oz. Let's say you have a question. Your kid asks something simple. Kid asks to stay the night at a friend's house. Mom says yes. You say no. How does the child get an answer? Mom and I talk together. We reason together. Because guess what? We have teenagers, and teenagers are the most conniving, manipulative motherfuckers on this planet.
Oh yeah.
And guess what we do? We talk and we compare stories and we say, well, what did they say to you? What did they say to you? And we're like, no, fuck that. They're not going there. And it's not, guess what? I have a penis, so I got the final fucking say. That's not what happens.
You know, like kids just play parents against each other. And to say that the male has the final say, if a kid stumbles upon that, do you ever think they're going to go talk to their mom about anything? If everything is dad's decision, why the fuck would they talk to their mother? This type of thinking is so disingenuous, and it does not consider consequence. Think before you fucking speak.
Yeah. So to keep it going, so we're not here for another 3 hours. Murdershed Steve, what would you like to say in closing?
So I actually have some news from the Murdershed. Yeah, and this one doesn't have a date. I think it's just going to sneak up right behind you. But I have my own little show that I'm going to be doing called Deep Dives with Murdershed Steve. We're going to get into topics of philosophy, sociology, maybe some psychology, things like that. Talk about religions, talk about specific religions, and do some deep dives. So, like I said, I don't have anything set in date yet, but things are in the works. And anybody here that wants to hang out and help me out with something afterwards related to that, please do.
I got your back, dog. I got your back. Samuel, DoLittle. What about you, man?
What?
What you got?
Want me to say something? what do you want me to say?
He said, what? At least you got some on TikTok. You got some.
I'm gonna tell you what.
Hold on. Did you get a new microphone? Like, what you got going on?
Let me tell you something. I have a TikTok, but I don't give a fuck about it. I just post random shit up there. And yes, I got a badass Yeti mic and a boom thing that Pasta gave me when we were in fucking ghetto ass Macon, Georgia. It was probably the most valuable thing in Macon. And I brought it back home with me.
I've been to Macon, that's true.
And I just want to tell any Christians out there that might be watching, if you're doubting what you believe, don't suppress your doubts. Don't fight them. Dig into them deep and put them to the test and see what happens.
Yeah, what the fuck he just said? Did you hold on? Say it, the last part of that. Say it one more time.
What? Dig into them deep and put them to the test and see what happens.
Put them to the test and see what happens. Put them to the test and see what happens. Because here's the thing. All these God claims, when you start putting them to the test and ask, can we test it? Can we measure it? Can we observe it? Guess what the answer is? No.
Samuel DoLittle's about to have a t-shirt before Murdershed Steve does.
God doesn't work that way. That's not how God works.
And our guest of the evening, Ethan Lawless, tell them, where can they find you? What you got going on the Tick and the Talks and anywhere else that maybe we don't know about?
Well, for right now, I'm solely on TikTok. I I do have plans in the future to do a podcast, to do possibly a YouTube channel. I told Murdershed Steve that I'm not pretty enough to have a YouTube channel, but I'll give it a shot. I did want to add a counter question to Mr. Pastor John in regards to his sexist scenario. What happens if it's two moms? Then who has the final say?
Biggest titties.
Jesus Christ.
God damn it. No, I appreciate you guys bringing me on here. I love doing this with you guys. This is the second time I've had the opportunity. I hope to get more opportunities to hang out. And I would be awesome if I could be a regular with you guys. I've been doing a lot of thinking about kind of toning back some of my content. I think that to some degree the aggression I give is justified, but then also it kind of closes the door for conversation. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to necessarily do that. So, yeah, I'm on TikTok. As far as TikTok goes, it's Ethan.Lawless. As far as the YouTube channel I currently have, which is just me dumping my TikToks, it's the 60-second Atheist. I'm on Snapchat and Instagram, but I don't really use those much. Facebook is basically garbage at this point.
No, I agree. Facebook is slowly becoming
MySpace.
Yeah, thank you. I couldn't remember
Facebook is for my parents to talk about Trump shit.
Yeah, exactly. The conservatives still love it. They get on there and push all their Trump.
Mine's
agenda.
cooler.
Well, they are about 50 years behind the curve.
That's why it's MySpace to them. All right. So before y'all start wagging your little swords around, Ethan, if I could, because I love your passion and I love I love how invested you are in like each post I see you make. I can see you're invested in that post, each and every single one. And if I could, from just my perspective and now our experience doing what we're doing, you said it earlier, and you said, I'm just a dick, and that's just what I do. I'm just a dick, right? And I remember that, like my original, and the guys that have been part of TART from day one knows that my original screen name was the Atheist Asshole. Like when we were getting a conversation, I was going to get in that ass. It was, and there was no holds barred. Right. But what I will tell you is what I learned, and again, shout out to Pastor Mike for helping me and get through that. But what I realized I wasn't helping anybody. Fuck those guys. No, fuck those guys. Like,
you're going to hate me regardless. That's why I do what I do.
This here, we'll get rid of him. But it was real conversation. If we're really out here to help, to influence, and to hopefully change people's minds, if you're being an asshole and you're being a dick, we're not changing people's minds. We're not making an impact, So what I would challenge you with is, like, up to this point, like that's been your thing. Yeah. But I will challenge you to reconsider and say, okay, I've done this up to this point, but now how can I be an influencer? How can I be a game changer in our community? That's what we need more of. There's enough assholes out there. We don't need more assholes. We need more people that are relatable, that can contribute to the actual changing of minds and impacting of beliefs and religious positions.
I've kind of gotten a shock. One of the reasons I dragged out my being an asshole to the extent I have, and one of the reasons I've just let it fly and I haven't really restricted myself, is because of the following that I've received for doing it. There are people out there that once they deconvert, they're angry, they're pissed. And they don't know that anybody out there feels that way either. And so I've gotten an insane amount of comments and DMs from people who are like, yo, I'm angry about this shit too. And they thank me for it. And so there's a part of me that kind of want to stick to this angry part of it. I just want to pull it back just a little bit. Pastor John is about to get his ass chewed if he doesn't shut up.
Ethan, this gives you, however, an excellent opportunity to lead the charge and create a wave of atheists that can relate to you, that can also make that change into creating more of a dialogue that is beneficial. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. And you can blend that, but just you could just go on. I'm sorry, I don't want to preach at you and tell you what to do, but you could take your platform and say, hey, I'm hurt too.
Let's
and then explain how to have these conversations.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to wrap this, and then backstage, once we end, we can keep this conversation going. Gotcha. But I would be respectful. And I'm just going to pull this up real quick. Apologia. First of all, thank you for hanging out. Much love. I think there's a place for satire and shock value in influencing people. Agreed. If there's a channel out there that agrees with that, it's the Atheist Roundtable. You have to have satire. You have to have shock. But it's the like when you're consistently an asshole, you're consistently a dick, you're consistently almost disrespectful. That's when it gets like you turn people off. So I do agree with that.
I found myself pulling back last week in regards to a conversation I was having. I had to repeat myself multiple times, and I caught myself pulling back. I was actually trying very, very hard to have the conversation. I think there's a point where it's just too much. There's a point where if a certain line is crossed, my asshole becomes very apparent. I will tell people just go fuck themselves. If you tell me that your gender is better than a woman's, if you're a male and you think you're better than a woman because of your gender, there's no conversation to be had. If you're going to tell me that I deserve to die because I'm gay, there's no conversation to be had. There are just certain lines that I will not let people cross. There will always be some part of me that's going to be a fucking asshole.
Right. So there's a couple people that got to go. So I want to, and we're gonna wrap this show up, but we're gonna do it properly. So for all of those watching and listening right now, Infidel Noodle is a legend. A legend.
She is. Agreed.
And because of not just Pastor John, but several other people that have jumped into the chat tonight and think that men are the end-all and be-all of all conversation, the decisions made, we're going to wrap with Infidel Noodle. So, Infidel Noodle, please tell us where everybody can find you, and then anything that you want to say regarding religion, exiting religion, and as soon as you're done, we're done.
I guess the first thing that I want to say to everyone is thank you so much to TART for having me on their channel. It's the second time I've had the honor of making an appearance here, so thank you so much. The other thing that I want to add is a lot of people think that I do what I do because I'm trying to tear down Islam, or that I have a personal vendetta against this religion and against people believing in what they believe, which is far from the truth. I want to normalize religious dissent, and I want people to be able to believe in whatever they choose to, so long as it does not cause harm and they're not enforcing that view on others, which is unfortunately happening to the degree that it is impeding upon human rights within the realm of Islam. The other thing that I want to say is, if you are interested in helping ex-Muslims who are stuck in Muslim-majority countries, I work for an organization called Free Hearts, Free Minds, and we run purely on donations. So if you are able and you have the means and you would like to help out in this space of ex-Muslimism, we would really appreciate your help with donations. So thank you so much again to TART for having me. And I hope everyone has a great evening or a great day, depending on where you are in the world. Bye.